Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to another draft archetype skeleton breakdown. I'm doing with Sierkovitz and Jason this time. Max unfortunately couldn't join us tonight. He's out with his girlfriend, so he'll be missed. This time we're on Innistrad Midnight Hunt. All looking forward to the new set's release, especially after AFR being a bit of a dud there at the end. But yeah, looking forward to this new set and happy to have Pawel and Jason here. Pawel, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Sierkovitz. I basically am a very, very, very close collaborator of 70 Lands guys, and I leech the data out of them and then try to do some analysis based on that. And yeah, you can find me on some podcasts occasionally as a guest, and I stream also since recently and mainly talk about numbers and magic and how to use the numbers to actually advance your gameplay skills and deck building ideas and stuff like that. So
yeah, good stuff. yeah, definitely. Jason?
Yeah, I am Jason, known as JasonILTG in a bunch of places: Discord, Twitter, Twitch. I play a lot of Magic, a lot of limited Magic, and I do pretty well at it, apparently. And yeah, sometimes I stream, less recently because, like, you know, AFR, and also I recently moved to Hong Kong and am more busy with work. And yeah, sometimes I post way too long threads on Twitter about underrated cards. Yep.
By the way, these are always awesome threads, I have to say, because that's where the edge in limited lies, understanding the underdrafted good cards, and Jason is really putting a good collection of them with the game plan and everything. So yeah, I highly recommend those if you stumble upon them.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, Jason definitely pointed me towards some cards that I wasn't using frequently enough, let's say, and yeah, you highlighted a couple of those. I think most practical examples are mostly from Strixhaven, with the 2-mana red card that learned and gave a +1/+1 counter to the next creature. What was it called again?
Day of Class.
First Day of Class. Yeah, you totally pointed me towards that. Okay, so yeah, so welcome everyone. Good that you're all in the chat. Since we're recording a VOD here, we won't be constantly replying to all the chats. But if there are good questions or remarks, we definitely take them into our conversation. So basically the main topic of tonight are the 10 draft archetype skeletons. So in Innistrad Midnight Hunt, all 10 2-color pairs will be playable. So we'll be going over each of them. And of course we have some general big picture thoughts before we dive in. Yeah, that's basically the plan. So yeah, let's go. Quick introduction to skeletons and how we've built them, if you want to try it out yourselves. So if we're building draft archetype skeletons, we're trying to be realistic. We're not trying to be building the best block constructed deck. We're trying to build reasonable draft decks that you can expect to be able to build in a real life draft or in an arena draft. And we've defined realistic and reasonable as containing up to 2 rares or mythics, no duplicates there. Up to 8 uncommons, also no duplicates there. And the rest of the deck will be commons, where we say that we include max 2 of each. This includes non-basic lands, and of course you can add basic lands freely, as you can do in any draft. If you want to follow along, we've included the links to our draft archetype skeletons in the slide deck. We might add some more later on if we find time to build the others. Yeah, Jason is already linking the slide deck in Twitch chat, so feel free to go ahead and grab it and yeah, use it for whatever purpose you like. Normally we would add a link here to sealdeck.tech, which is a great website for doing things like building draft archetype skeletons, but I honestly haven't been able to load the entire set into sealdeck.tech this time around. I think the servers are a bit overloaded, so we've managed to build the 2-color archetypes, but I haven't managed to load the entire set and publish it. So if I get around to that, or it somehow works later tonight, then we'll make sure to add the link on this slide as well. Yeah, so let's dive in. Starting with the general big picture thoughts. Crickets. No, who of us was going to do this one, guys?
We didn't decide, by the way.
Oh, is this
so it's you, I guess.
Is this the only slide we didn't decide on? Oh, that's horrible. Okay, no worries, no worries. I don't think we have many like hitting the ball out of the park general big picture thoughts. It seems like there are multiple synergies introduced, but yeah, we agreed that the support for some of the synergies seems a bit questionable. More on that later. Yeah, if the synergies won't come together, that means that drafts will be competing for the few strong on-rate cards, the strong removal spells, the strong bodies where you get enough power and toughness for the amount of mana that you're paying, and yeah, that will be. Let's say that would be the less ideal scenario if that's how it turns out. The format seems a bit princely, although we had a short debate about that topic before we started the stream. There are definitely some strong rares and mythics, but at the same time there's a lot of good common removal, especially in black and red. So maybe those removals can keep the princes in check, let's say. Yeah, 2-drops, especially at common and uncommon, don't seem very impressive. I think we're pretty happy with a 2/2 with a little upside in this format. But that said, there's a decent amount of aggressive decks, or at least color pairs that seem to be willing to be aggressive. So yeah, we definitely need 2s in any deck, because we need to be able to to basically hit the board and defend ourselves early. So those are the general big picture thoughts, right, guys?
Yep.
Okay, let's continue. Oh, Flying MTG is asking a question in chat. Might be a good suggestion.
Yeah, that's why I was so skimpy and answering. Hopefully it works now.
Okay, that's cool.
But since I'm rubbish at how Twitch operates, maybe it doesn't. So that's the trick.
Yeah,
to host.
I said it to host it, but
no worries.
No
We're all very non-professional content creators here. So we'll do our best to keep up with real creators there. Hey NCA, welcome. Yeah, I'm. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, thanks for the follows, Flying MTG and Last Pick as well. Let's dive into these nice, almost patented Sierkovitz sheets by this time. Pawel, elaborate.
Okay, so this time it was a bit trickier to make them because. Obviously, normally I put the data on what percentage of creatures does each removal kill, but now it's different if it's day or if it's night. So I had to split the graphs into day and night, and basically looking at the well, actually I looked at I think all the removal that deals a certain amount of damage. And basically looking at it, I can see that there is this one spell that deals 1 damage to a creature, and that kills around 22% of the creatures independently if it's day or night, which is a bit little. So I guess that you probably don't want to play it like just for removal. You want to play it if you have something extra out of it, so some kind of spell synergies, or it also deals 1 damage to the opponent, so it will enable the vampire synergies as well. Then when you look at the 2 damage spells, and there's 3 of them, and I counted Immolation as one of them because it will kill something that has 2 toughness or 1 toughness, as well as Shock would do. They kill around 50% of things during the day and around 45% of the things during the night. So because some werewolves flip and they stop being 2 toughness and become 3 toughness, you will have to wait till the next day to be able to kill them, basically. Which is, I think that if I compared it with previous sets, it was around 50% for Shock most of the time. So it's on par and slightly worse when it becomes night. And then I think the important category is the 3 damage spells, because there is a much bigger difference in terms of how much they kill during day and night. And also, if you're playing against a deck that cares about day-night cycles, then you basically have to use them during night most of the time, because you want to use them during the night to enable day so that you don't get overrun by werewolves. But also at the same time, during the night, your spells are less efficient, so you might not want to use them. So the thing with the deal 3 damage, the lightning bolt, as it's now I think officially called, it's cheaper during the night, so it's great because you can double spell to switch night to day. But at the same time, there will be a lot of werewolves that you might want to kill during the day because you're not able to kill them during the night using this spell. So you will have a bit of a conundrum. So that's fine. And you know, of course, in the werewolf deck, this is perfect because you don't want to play spells during your turn, which will usually be day. So you want to play it during the night when it kills, when it's cheap as well. So yeah, there you go. And then the 5 damage spells, they kill basically almost everything. There's very few things that they don't kill. So actually the 5 mana deal 5 and deal 2 to the opponent as a common is you can almost treat it as an unconditional removal. There's very few things that survive it. And yeah. These are the regular kill spells, and then there is of course the couple of weird removal spells that are also conditional, but their conditional is not how much damage they deal, but they have other what's the name? Well, other conditions. And one of them that is interesting is foul play. It kills a creature with power 2 or less, and then you investigate, which you can later convert to card advantage. So it can basically 2 for 1 over some time. And this is actually pretty decent, I think. There is a lot of 3 mana spells that have 2 power that you will be able to kill with this thing. So I think that this might be a bit underrated in the beginning. And I think it's better than it seems, so it kills quite a lot. Then you have Defenestrate, and around 77% of creatures don't have flying, so it will kill quite a lot. And also the flyers are not particularly big, except for a couple of mythics that, well, you're probably in trouble when you cannot kill them. But yeah, you won't be able with Defenestrate, but it kills quite a lot, and it kills large chunkers from the red-green as well.
I'm seriously curious here, Pawel. Which card is creating the difference between day and night there? Is there a werewolf getting flying?
Yeah, there is a curse. There is a curse that is a curse during day, and it turns into a creature during night.
Oh! Okay, that's epic. Yeah, that explains. I was like, wait, what?
That's the difference, basically.
But don't you? Isn't the creature not flying? So like, shouldn't it be higher percentage during the night?
Yeah, but there is a different number of creatures during the day and during the night.
Well,
that's the only.
Sure, but like, if you're increasing the number of creatures, but also increasing the number of creatures you can kill, that should increase the proportion, right?
I'm with Jason.
No, there was definitely something there that offloaded my calculations. There were more creatures. Huh. I have to double check the numbers.
Yeah, let's not
because
challenge.
What you say makes sense, but maybe I flipped day and night, but because this by the way, graph has been made fully in PowerPoint, so there might be some errors based on my flipping the squares. It's like it's not a graph that was made custom. It's actually squares that I calculated how big they should be so that I can make the background.
I really like the aesthetics. It's looking very nice, Pawel. Good job.
But yeah, then there is this weird white removal, and it looks like it kills around quarter creatures, the big ones, but since you're probably not guaranteed to have something to kill with it, I would probably think that this is more of a sideboard card in the beginning. So yeah, I don't know if that's going to be good enough to main deck, at least in best of 1. But who knows? Maybe we shall see how it plays out. But I would assume that lots of the time you will be stuck with it in your hand. And I think that the big discovery from this particular data set is the Silver Bolt. And it looks really good, I have to say, because you know, you pay the 1 mana on turn 1 if you had it in your opening hand. That's not a biggie because you probably didn't lose anything. And then for 3 mana, you can kill more than you can kill with the Defenestrate. So it looks like a pretty decent card to use, and it definitely will be underestimated in the beginning. So if you're short on removal, you can fill in on the Silver Bolt and you will be quite happy. And then the last thing is the Olivia's Night Ambush, and this card is clearly better in the night. So basically it does as much as a shock during day, and it kills everything in the set during the night. So I think I would advise that if you play with it, you want to have at least, you know, 1 or 2 ways of turning on the night and day cycle, because if you play against a deck that doesn't care about night and day, they won't turn it on, then you just end up with a mediocre shock for 2 mana. And if you can switch it on, you can end up with a premium removal for 2 mana. So the variance on this card is large, and therefore you probably should make sure that the variance is slightly tilted on your side, because you can enable the night and day cycle.
Yep.
So yeah, that's the removal for you.
Looks good. I think this is the first time that the artifact removal spell might actually be very, very playable. Would you agree?
I mean, so, in Eldraine...
go ahead.
In Eldraine, there was the deal 3, and it was quite playable because you had artifact synergies, and you sometimes had Emery, and you could make an Emery lock, and there was... See the pun there? Emery lock? No takers?
Yeah. I think, in fact, Scalding Cauldron is the most apt comparison, where it's also like basically the same thing, except it can't kill werewolves. It doesn't auto-kill werewolves. I think it's an interesting comparison because I think this is like a slightly better like version of the effect, but I think that probably it's going to be a worse draft pick than Scalding Cauldron was. Like, part of the reason I think Scalding Cauldron was like only okay as like a playable in Eldraine, but it was a very good draft pick because Eldraine was all about delaying the decision, like keeping your colors open. Yeah, exactly what Flying's saying in chat. Like, because it was colorless, you can play it in any monocolor deck, and just have removal that way. So I think this will probably not be as good as you remember Scalding Cauldron being as like a pick. Like, I'm not gonna take. I don't think you necessarily should take this highly, especially since the other removal also looks good in most of the colors. But I think that it'll like play out decently well.
I think that, you know, no reason to take it highly, but I think that you will be able to pick it up late. That's that's I think that and also, I mean, you have to keep in mind that you're comparing it unfairly to the Scalding Tarn, which was a Scalding Cauldron, which was a constructed level playing card. I mean, it was played in the MPL standard deck. So
I thought the only reason for that was because of protection from white.
I mean, let's not go to the reason why it was played and constructed, but yeah, no, Paulo Vitor was playing it in mono white to kill the Archon that was protection from white, because otherwise you just auto lose to that card. Yeah.
Nice.
Just a sign of Eldraine's power creep. Even the common removal artifact gets played and constructed.
Exactly, the 7th pick common removal. Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, let's move on to big picture white.
Yeah, so I think white in this format. Okay, I didn't write all of this, so some of it I don't agree with. But I think white in this format.
Go ahead.
Very like aggressive, with like go wide synergies for like Coven and such. So you have 2 drops and the 3/1 flash and 2/2 that's flying if you have Coven. Both of those seem pretty good. I think the flying one is better. Some people are comparing it to Gustwalker, which is like, I think probably Flutterfox is a better comparison, but
fair.
So then you also have what I like to call Priest of Attacking lore in Search Party Captain, 4 mana 2/2 that like draws a card and it costs 1 less to cast for attacking like each creature you attacked with. That like it's basically Priest of Ancient Lore from AFR, except it probably costs less and has an additional toughness. Like you can go curve 2-drop into this on turn 3, and that's basically ancient lore. And if you like in the late game, like later than turn 3, it's likely to cost 2 or even 1 mana. And then you have like 4 mana 2/3 that like comes in and puts 2+1/+1 counters on things, kind of like Basri's Acolyte from M20 or M21. I forget which one.
Yeah,
it doesn't have lifelink, but it can put a counter on itself. So
that's upside, yeah.
Yeah, basically just a lot of solid, aggressively slanted creatures like go wide. And then finally, there's a card that's not pictured here, Homestead Courage, which is like white, put a +1/+1 counter on something, give it vigilance until end of turn with flashback for white. And I think that card is likely to be very strong. As Guiding Voice plus Expanded Anatomy, basically, you lose a counter, but it's cheaper, and it gives vigilance on both sides. Both as a way to, like, it has a bunch of like neat things it does where it enables Coven by making your power line up well, and it also helps you with controlling day and night. Specifically, I think white decks will often prefer it to be the day, kind of fittingly, because white very much doesn't have werewolves. I think there's maybe 2 at rare, but like nothing below that. So like you basically always prefer it to be day in your white decks, and something cheap to double spell with can help punish your opponent and your like werewolf opponents for passing to make it night, and like flipping it back to day, which will probably be good for you. Yeah, I think the only point here that I didn't disagree with, and maybe like one of you two should take it, being white's premium removal being enchantment based. I don't I don't think I like Candle Trap that much.
So because, full transparency here, I typed this sentence, and I think this is a bit like English being not my first language, because I don't think I mean premium, but I mean that the removal that there is in white that you want to play is probably enchantment based, right? So the good
primarily enchantment based.
Maybe that's the term that yeah. But I think you will be playing the uncommon enchantment removal, and I think I might be playing the common enchantment removal spell as well from time to time.
Okay, so like I agree the Banishing Light will probably be fine. But I think the common one, I guess you might play in slower decks, but I just don't see those slower decks existing. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. But indeed, premium is maybe not the word that I was looking for.
Yeah, I personally am just a fan of just not playing removal instead playing combat tricks as my interaction.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, and so here, like I personally just thought that like the white aggressive tools are just strong enough that like all your white decks will want to like have the same white half and just be aggressive. And here you can see I've put Search Party Captain in the 3-drop slot where it belongs. Yeah, like I think you want to lean into like Candlegrove Witch plus Homestead Courage, especially to like turn on Coven, get your Candlegrove Witches flying, and then like just go. Also lean into a bit of go wide with like Ritual of Hope as the uncommon that pays that off, and use combat tricks in Blessed Defiance and Flare of Faith as your interaction instead of like playing the medium removal at common. But yeah.
Yep. Fair enough. Blue?
Oh yeah, I'm taking a bunch in a row. I forgot about
yes,
that.
Yes.
You're the Esper man. Remember.
Indeed. So blue, obviously, there's Organ Hoarder is like a very important card here as a 3/2 that just draws a card with like a lot of upside as well. Picking one out of the top 3 and putting the other 2 in your graveyard is a lot of value, because not only do you get more selection, you also get the upside of dumping flashback or disturb cards in your graveyard, both of which will be very important in blue. Then there's also like a lot of decayed zombies in blue, with things like Startle or Revenge of the Drowned or Flip the Switch, just like effects that we would often see, except like they also make a decayed zombie. And there's not that many ways in blue to use the decayed zombies. So like you're probably looking at blue-black as the places where those zombies fit in the best. But yeah, it's a bit weird, but like certainly powerful if you can make it work. Then there's actually a lot of instant speed stuff that I noticed. Like you have Devious Cover Up and Flip the Switch for counter spells. Revenge of the Drowned for removal. Then you have an uncommon, like the uncommon 2/1 for 3 flyer that like is -2/-0, and Startle for like some combat trickery. Secrets of the Key maybe for card draw, though it seems really slow. And then there's a 5 mana 3/3 flying a flash threat that you could maybe play as a threat in your like draw go control decks. I'm not sure how much of that I think it's of note that there's like a lot of instant speed stuff. I don't know exactly how much of that you want to play, but like you could make that work.
Can somebody help Mikuras out? What's the correct name of Nabogast Intruder?
Oh, there might be like a H after the G or something. It's 2 in the blue for a 2/1 flash flying spirit that when it ETBs gives something -2/-0 until end of turn.
Okay.
Yeah. And then speaking of black, which you might want to pair with blue, yeah, black has just like a lot of good, efficient.
Yeah, sorry, I just like it's spelled correctly, Mingusheras. It probably just doesn't see it.
Ah, okay.
Because you spelled it right. That's how it's spelled. Oh no! Oh,
the bots
L and E are swapped. It's Nabelgast Intruder.
Ah, okay.
Not Nabla. It
Yeah,
will be EL.
That was the first try though, so I think the bot is just lacking the card.
Oh.
Well,
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm surprised because I would expect like bots to pull from Scryfall, but whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, so black has a lot of good, efficient removal. You have Defenestrate, which we saw from Sierkovitz's thing, destroys like quite a lot of things. Olivia's Midnight Ambush, which is medium during the day, but you can still use it as a combat trick at least. But like kills literally everything during the night and has the play pattern where like if day night has been introduced, you can just pass your turn and use it on your opponent's turn. Eaten Alive is basically Spark Harvest for more of the Spark. Like black, sacrifice a thing, exile target creature or planeswalker, or you can pay 3 black, I think, instead of exiling something. But yeah, or instead of sacrificing something of your own. But yeah, that one plays very well with the Decayed Zombies. I think a big part of black, like all of the black decks, will be like there's a lot of cards that generate Decayed Zombies. Like that's just a thing in both blue and black. And there's also a lot of ways in black to use them. For example, Siege Zombie here is a card that I think will be very good in black. It's 2 mana 2/2, very solid. And then you can tap 3 untapped creatures to make each opponent lose 1 life. So like your Decayed Zombies, you can just use them, like 2 of them with this, just ping your opponent for 1 every turn without sacrificing your Decayed Zombies because they're not attacking. And then there's also other ways to sacrifice them, like Eaten Alive, for example, gives you a discount. But if you sacrifice something, there's like a 1/1 that flips into a 4/4 when you by sacrificing a thing, paying 3 mana and like drawing a card. And there's like a 7/6 Menace for 5 if you sack a thing that costs 7 if you don't sack a thing. And that one I think will also be pretty good because it's just like such a big threat. We saw from Sierkovitz's slides that like removal at 5 kills most things, but that's like one thing that it very much doesn't. It's a 7/6. And I think that'll just like be a very good threat that outclasses a bunch of stuff. So there's like a bunch of different packages that you can like fit Decayed Zombies into, like whether sacrificing or like going wide or being aggressive or like maybe enabling some like vampire make your opponent lose life stuff by like chump attacking in with some Decayed Zombies. But like all of these do like really center around Decayed Zombies. So I think those will be very important.
Yeah, I'm already looking forward to my games when I play this, when opponent plays the 7/6 Menace guy and they attack and I'm just like, oh, they have Startle, don't they? They just have to have Startle.
Yeah.
And it's going to be always sad to double block that thing.
Also, last pick Blyat, I don't know how to pronounce the full name of the Twitch chatter, but they say about Olivia's ambush in black. There are only 2 daybound, nightbound cards in common, uncommon. Blue and white. There's only rares with daybound, so I don't think it's that safe to just pick it if you're just in black. But it's a signal to move into black red or black green. What do you guys think? I think, like, on one hand, yeah, that you could. It is like a pull towards black red or black green, more like have more werewolves. But I think also it's more of a pull towards drafting the black werewolves a bit higher. Like, I don't think the black werewolves are bad. Like, there's one at common that I think is like fine, like probably not top common status, but like I think it's fine to put that card in your deck. It's like a 2/3 menace that turns into a 4/4 menace or something. And I think, like, if you have like multiple midnight ambushes, then you should like pick that higher. And I don't think you necessarily want to warp your color choices around just one card. When like also I think the like 2 mana for -2/2 will be good anyways.
My personal...
You have to keep in mind that this is not the only way of starting day and night cycle. There are also, in white and in blue, there are also those cards that when it enters the battlefield, it becomes day if it wasn't. So there is the 3/3 with Ward 1 that when the night to day flip occurs, looks for a creature with power with
I think it's
mana value 3. I think, yeah, mana value 3. There is the blue one that draws cards when the night changes to day, and that also initiates the cycle. And there's a couple of those on top of it. So there are other ways of starting night and day cycle that, even if you don't care, you can just put them so that you enable that at some stage it will be night and your Olivia's Ambush will become a prime removal.
Yeah, I personally think that most games of Limited will eventually end up in the day-night cycle before ending. Like, it only requires 1 card on either side of the battlefield. I think it's pretty likely that that's going to happen in like 80% of the Limited games. Eventually will end up there. I think
another thing to mention about this is that I think that, like you said, right, like Esper doesn't have that much day-night stuff, but in order for it not to be day-night stuff, right, both players would like...
Exactly.
It's likely that both players are Esper, and I think also Esper creatures in general are smaller and more likely to be hit by the like -2/2, right? Like against a white deck, you're perfectly happy using this to kill their 2/2 that like gains flying on Coven, or like against the blue deck, blue has like a decent amount of like utility creatures or like
3/2 flyer
from Disturb that you're fine using this on. So I think that the downside is like not that high on the card.
Agree. Okay, let's move to red. So a thing to note is that red's identity looks very split in this set. So there are several cards that seems to fit either Vampire Aggro or either Wolf Stompy or either Spells Matters. And those cards seem pretty mediocre outside of exactly that archetype. So I listed a few here of each of those sets, and therefore I think we concluded before the stream that red seems to be a support color. So depending on which of these archetypes you're in, you'll probably be interested in picking up some of these cards. That said, red's removal looks great as always, basically, but I think especially the 5 CMC one. Costing only 1 red this time, also being a given 2 damage to the opponent's face, so no die rolling, no trample over, but just a solid 2 to the face. I think that spell looks very good, and so of course does the 3 mana deal 3, and there's some uncommon ones as well. So yeah, again, red solid removal, but yeah, the cards outside of the removal look a bit dicey. Anything to add here, guys? Sierko, you're muted. At least to me.
Okay, so I think that I'm not muted anymore, am I?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so I think that the red is a sort of decider color because all the synergies are quite distinct in it. So I think that maybe not early in the format, but late in the format, I think people will learn that there's non-overlapping cards. So red will be able to like source several decks per table even, but not necessarily be the dominant color in any of them. So I think that this goes together with the, because you know, like you will have your vampires, you will have your werewolves, you will have your spells for the spells deck, and you don't want to play Seize the Storm in the Vampire build, and you don't want to play the whatever Voldaren Ambusher in the Spells Matters build, really. So I mean, this non-overlap might be favorable because you will always be able to find like some kind of an open lane in red. But I don't think it will happen in the early format. It might happen later.
Yep, seems right. Okay. Moving on to green.
Right, so green, it's a lot of generic value cards, and there is some stuff playing around with flashback, and there is, of course, there's the werewolf part of green that is, well, chunky creatures that I think is really powerful, but it doesn't have like a strong identity like black or blue head that we saw so far. I think that, yeah, it's like a bit similar to red in the way that the synergies seem to be concentrated in pockets rather than to be spanning the whole color range. And yet, I agree with this conclusion that 2s don't look amazing. I do like the the 2-mana wolf that gets Death Touch for 3 mana, because I think that you get a couple of points of damage early, and you will later trade it for something bigger for the 3 mana extra. I think that in general, I think that this format is not really conducive to the 2/2s. So the 2/2s get outclassed pretty quickly. There's plenty of 2/3s which will just completely blank them very easily. So it's good that they do something for later game, and I think that they put a lot of mechanisms like the Coven Flyer or the Death Touch Wolf in green that can deal with that. But there is fixing, and I think that there will be, maybe not early, but later, there will be 3-color decks based on green and probably based on blue-green, and maybe like a teamwork kind of pile with spells, flashback, and then grindy game plan to do something with the graveyard. Yeah, I think that this is the main points. The cards that we show here is, first of all, Eccentric Farmer. I love the design of the card, and I truly love it because you can set it up. If you really want a land, you can do some self-mill in early turns, play it on turn 3, and you already have a land in your graveyard, so you know that you're going to hit. But if not...
Evolving Wilds is awesome.
I was going to say, Evolving Wilds is an enabler here. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. But also what I like about it is that the more mana screwed you are, the more likely you're to hit the land in your top 3 cards. So it's like sort of giving you lands. The more you need them, the more it gives you, and the least you need them, the less chance that you will get one. Like in the late game, it might actually even mill 3 spells, which probably is something, if you play the flashback deck, which is something you might even want to do. Yeah, I think that the Shadow Beast sighting, when I was building the skeletons, this card appeared quite a lot, and I think that this is going to be quite an important card because it gives you a really good 2/1, even though the 7 mana is quite a lot. But 4 mana 4/4 is blanking quite a lot of creatures in this format. Like a 4 damage spell would kill almost as many things as the 5 damage spell does. So there is not, because I also did those numbers, I just didn't put them because there is no 4 damage removal. So the 4/4 is actually quite huge for this format. The body is relevant, and you get a couple of them later. And Whole of the Hand, people are hot on it, and I'm still thinking about it. I mean, I'm still not 100% convinced it's going to be one of the top commons, but I see the potential of this card. I also see that there is a lot of removal, and there is a lot of it at instance, which makes me a bit weary of it. So that's my points on the green, basically.
Yeah, fair points. Nothing to add. I think these were the big picture things. So from here on out, we dive into the skeletons, and I think it's good to have some of these general topics out of the way, so we don't need to spend a lot of time on those during the skeletons. So yeah, let's dive into the first archetype. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Azorius. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, so I think I think all white decks will basically be most successful as aggressive decks, and I think this is true even of Azorius. I think what you want to do is like play cheap creatures, both like the good aggressive white cards and like things like Bait Hook Angler from blue. That gives you a late game plan of getting back your flashing back your disturbed creatures to have like relatively small but like evasive threats to close things out, right? Like you don't care necessarily that your flyer that you're getting from Big Hook Angler is only a 1/2 because like you've already gotten in a bunch of damage and you just need to close the game. Also, shout outs again to Homestead Courage, the +1/+1 counter spell with flashback, for helping enable this both by like enabling attacks early and late. Like you can put counters on your flyers, and that helps you push even more damage late. So yeah, I think that card will be especially good in blue-white. I think Faithful Mending that's the uncommon flashback spell in blue-white. It's Faithless Looting, except it costs one more on each half. Or wait, no, just one more on the front half. I think it's blue-white on the front half, one blue-white on the back half. For instant speed, draw 2, discard 2, you gain 2. I think that's mostly a trap. Like you might think that like, I can like get value out of this sculpting my hand and like discarding disturbed creatures that like it's not like card disadvantage because I can just get them back later. But I think that with disturbed cards, you generally do want to get value from both halves of the card and not just like discard them to disturb them in the late game, because I think the disturbed creatures, like the back halves of the disturbed creatures, are generally like overcosted by 1 or 2 mana, and generally like you want to treat them more as upside. Like I have a cheap creature that has a late game upside rather than I only care about the back half of this. I think you do want to care about both halves generally. There's some exceptions. There's like the 0/4 that turns into a 4/4 flying angel or something. Or I don't know if it's an angel.
The sign point uncommon has a 3-mana 3/1 flyer in the back. That's well costed.
That's relevant.
But the front is good too. It's like a 2-mana 2/1 or 2/2 or something.
Yeah. No, it is. It's
great. And it also like it says like when you cast a spell from your graveyard, tap something, which is a great aggressive ability for cast my disturbed creature, tap down your big blocker, push some damage, and like now I have a flyer and like I'm clocking you in the air as well. So I think generally you don't want to be like discarding a disturbed creature is not necessarily like that much better than discarding a card. Basically,
I would be still happy discarding lands from it. Basically, that's my or flashback sometimes.
Right, Rainfall has a good question, I think. So the question is mill is different than discarding in that regard, right? And I think Rainfall is correct there.
Yeah, like the thing is, right, like Faithful Mending, the fact that you're just like discarding disturbed cards is not better than discarding other cards, because you're still like you're losing the front half of the card, and I think you care about the front half of the card for disturbed cards. And also true of flashback cards, like you generally care about the fact that you're getting both halves and not just like front half. But like milling a card, like milling a disturber flashback card is better than milling a land or a different card, because you're like you wouldn't have gotten the front half anyways.
And also I mean like the back of disturbed cards are they are slightly overpriced, but they're still amazingly cheap when you think about that. You don't have to spend a card on it. That's like, I mean, you're paying for that basically.
I mean, but like, so think about it like this, right? When you draw a disturbed card, you've essentially drawn 2 cards, the front half and the back half, right? When you discard a disturbed card, you're still discarding the front. You're discarding.
No.
Yeah, and I think it's also good to note that by discarding a disturb spell, you're changing the what is it, the how many lands you have compared to spells in your deck, right? By milling, you're not changing that ratio, but by discarding a disturb spell, you are, and I think that's a bad thing. So it's small, but it's relevant.
Yeah. Well, anyways, like we've talked about this a lot. Basically, I think like you're trying to be an aggressive deck. You don't really want to play like just like random card filtering that like is tempo negative and also not obviously card positive and probably card negative anyways.
Oh, like it. Let's dive into the archetype.
Yeah, skeleton. So for the archetype, yeah, this is basically just what I said. I have basically my half skeleton from white here.
Shall I go to the thing on sealed deck so I can hover over the cards? That maybe helps, right? I have them all open here. You can do it like
maybe, yeah, that could help.
So it's a bit more work, and it looks less nice, but I think it'll help in clarifying stuff. So yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, like basically you just want to do the like white aggressive thing, and in blue you just want like bait hook angler is probably the one of the blue commons that goes up the most. 2/1 on front half, 1/2 flyer on back half, but costs 1 in the blue. And of course, Organ Hoarder is excellent here. Just 3/2 for 4, which that like draws a card and also fills your graveyard with like mills disturbed cards into your graveyard. And another blue common that I think like that goes up a bit in value, specifically in blue-white, is Geist Wave, which is 1 in the blue for basically unsummon. It might hit any non-land permanent, not sure. And if you return something you controlled or owned, I'm not sure which, basically something of yours to your hand.
Controlled, yes.
Then you draw a card. So like the reason why this goes up in value is, well, let's say you play a disturbed creature, it dies, then you disturb it, it comes back as a flyer. Your opponent might want to remove that flyer. Then you can Geist Wave it back to your hand, draw a card, and like now you get both halves yet again, because the disturbed creatures have text for like exiling them if they would be put into a graveyard, but not if they're just returned to your hand. So like basically you have creatures that like get you more value when you return them to your hand, and you might want to like protect your evasive threats more. So I think Geist Wave does go up a bit in value. But yeah, beyond that, just like normal blue-white stuff with like flyers and a bit of a like aggressive tempo plan.
Yep, like it.
Yeah, we have basically the same take on white blue in terms of how I see it. Mine was built more around the premise of, yeah, I kill in disguise. I don't care that their creature gets defender. Therefore, I would happily play 1 mana pacifisms because I don't have to. Yeah,
I could see that. My problem is that my problem with that is that your disturbed creatures on the front side generally don't have flying, and so I think you do care about attacking on the ground early, and like so like the give a thing defender card is not going to be great if you're attacking on the ground early.
Yep, makes sense. Okay, you have some standout cards here as well. Anything you want to highlight on top of what you've already done, Jason?
Not much, as what I've already said. I guess like Morning Patrol I think goes up a bit in blue-white compared to other white decks because disturbs and like you have a bit more self-mill, so like you get a bit more value out of playing more disturbed cards in your deck and your flyers deck. So like you care about the flying on the backside. I already talked a lot about Homestead Courage and why I like it a lot, so that's why it's very big on this slide. But yeah, nice. Other than that,
nice. Okay, let's go to the second skeleton then, Rakdos. Yeah, so big picture looks to be an aggressive deck with cheap creatures that are supported by strong removal. I think the removal in black and red is both that's the home of the good removal spells, and red black is leveraging both of those, as it is in most of the recent sets. I think AFR being a very good example and a very recent one. Yeah, several cards at uncommon that care about the Vampire Tribal. So Vampire Socialite, Stormcrook Blood Thief, Voldaren Ambusher. And I think luckily most creatures that you want in this archetype are already vampires anyway. I think typically the red werewolves are a bit clunky, and the black zombie cards are a bit more suited for a control deck. I think the aggressive cards in black and red will mostly be vampires anyway, so that helps. So I don't think you have to work hard to make these Vampire Tribal cards good. Multiple cards are only playable when you're able to deal damage to your opponent. So that means that without dealing the damage, if you play them main phase 2 without dealing any damage, they're mostly very bad. But when you did deal the damage, I think some of them are actually pretty strong. So I think most of the red-black decks will be trying to play evasive 1 and 2 drops, or use other ways of pinging the opponent to get in damage and get the full value out of the cards, basically. Sierkovitz redeemed the deck. Yeah, so the big thing in Rakdos is if an opponent lost life this turn, then something happens. So there's some payoffs on the bottom here. So the Socialite, the Outlaw, that does a very good, what was it called? The black 2/3 vampire in AFR? What's the name of the 2/3?
Vampire Spawn. Vampire
Spawn, indeed. I think Arrogant Outlaw is a nice aggressive variant of that with the stat line changed around. If you're able to trigger the ability, of course. Mountain Dread Knight being a 6/5 trample for 5 seems very, very good. And of course the Voldaren Ambusher reminds a bit of the wizard from what was it again? Kaladesh, I think. The 2/2 red wizard that pinged for the amount of wizards.
That's Zendikar, pretty sure.
Oh, it's Zendikar, yeah. Yeah, it reminds me a bit of that. And I think
it pinged for the number of party members, I think.
Oh, yes, that was the one. Yeah, that was a solid card as well. And I think the Ambusher reminds me a bit.
The point, you could play it before attacks, which was the amazing part of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's still good in main phase 2, I think, but fair. Fair point.
Yeah, I think Ambusher will be a bit awkward because it doesn't enable your attacks. And like it can do a bit of like finishing off a blocker after attacks, but like I think it might be a bit clunkier than versions we've seen before. Not to say that it isn't playable, just that like it won't be like I don't think it'll be amazing. Like,
yep,
it will still be good, I think.
Yeah, agree with that. So let's look at how we can enable this. I think Siege Zombie Jason already highlighted how good this card is. I think for the fact that it deals 1 damage to your opponent. You don't need to do it via combat, right? So then suddenly Voldaren Ambusher is a main phase 1 card actually. I think it's.
But you tap 3 creatures.
You do tap 3 creatures, but just throwing it out there.
Yeah, you can do some like what's it called? Some black-red, the thing that black-red does a lot, attrition-y. Like,
yeah, right. Don't attack, just drain them out, basically. I think Turmo Alchemist does a similar job, where you can also tap it to deal 1 damage before in main phase 1. Suddenly all your spells now in main phase 1 are also relevant. Neonate's Rush, I think, is quite a decent card in this archetype. I know, Pawel, you just highlighted that it only kills like 1/5 of the creatures. But I think that doesn't take into account the 1/1 humans that might be floating around. So also a lot of 2/1 flyers on the backside of a lot of the Disturb cards. So I can see this being better than how it came off in your initial graph.
I can see that being better because here it gives you the extra things. First of all, it's cheaper, and second of all, it's it enables you all the payoffs for the vampire. So I mentioned specifically that it will be not so great outside of vampires and spells matters. But
no, fair. I wasn't giving you shit. I was just pointing out that even the fact that it deals 1 damage to target creature might be more relevant than came off in the slide deck initially.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Voldaren Stinger, I think this is good. I think the fact that it's a 1/1 first striker that has this threaten effect with a +2/+0 for 3 mana. I think this card will deal a lot of damage over a couple of turns. It will be blocked very rarely, and it will enable all the payoffs listed on the bottom.
Oh no, it's basically unblockable.
Yeah, indeed. I think so too. I think it'll act like that a lot of the time. So yeah, a little enablers.
Ferocious pop from Kaldheim, except it can pump itself multiple times, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
also
can.
Itself on blocks, though. It doesn't have first strike on blocks.
True, but it does have a relevant creature type, which I think is important for this archetype. Yeah. Okay. Let's dive into the skeleton. I'll quickly bring up the sealed deck page again. So yeah, I think just a lot of the highlighted cards are here. Just a low curve Mountain Dread Knight as the top end. I like the fact that Foragers is able to discard lands in the late game, which I think is pretty strong. Hungry for More is a card that I hear quite some debate about. I'm not as low on it as I heard some people be. I think for 5 mana you can make 2 3/1s with haste and trample and lifelink. I think that's a pretty strong card if you just consider it being a 5 mana do that, and it's more flexible than that. So I can see this card being like a C+ or ending up somewhere above replacement level. But
yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah,
I think it's good. It's 12 life swing, 12-point life swing, and also, you know,
yeah,
good finisher out of nowhere.
it's also those are 2 vampires. They might get buffed. There might be other relevant things.
I don't think there's that many lords at below rare, unfortunately, for vampires.
Sorry, come again, Jason?
I don't think there's really lords below rare for vampires.
Socialite is buffing them, right? Socialite says if an opponent lost life, they enter with a +1/+1 counter on it.
Oh, but okay, I guess then you need to do damage pre-combat.
Oh yes, you need to do a couple of things there to make them 4/2s, but I can definitely see it happen. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I think yeah, it's pretty straightforward. If it says vampire, it's probably good in this deck. I think the performer is pretty decent because it deals the damage even when it's blocked, and it's a 2/1, which will generally trade with most other 2-drops in the set. And I can also see the Vampire Interloper being pretty good, given that it's an early flyer, so it's an evasive creature, and it'll probably get in quite a bit before your opponent is able to get a flyer of its own in the air. So yeah, I like those. I like those 2s. I can see them being pretty relevant.
Just like the deck doesn't have like a very good plan B, it seems to me. Like
No.
I like how it is aggressive, but I don't like what happens to it when it loses the edge or draws wrong order of
It's
payoffs and enablers.
Yeah, it's very all in Sierkovitz. I agree. Yeah, that's how I feel about it as well. But I think most aggro decks are at their best if they are all in. As an aggro deck, let's say.
I like them to have a plan B for the late grind. I think that Interloper is probably the best plan here for having some kind of reach in the late game.
Yeah.
That's why I like the Hungry for More, because Hungry for More can completely tilt the balance all of a sudden.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's good in a race. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Ramp and then gas big stuff from the graveyard. Green blue. Do you want to go to the skeleton first or the enable payoff slide first, Sierkovitz?
Whichever is first, we're on this one. So
yeah, we're on this one.
I mean, basically, blue does not have like that super strong identity. It probably is a value engine deck, and also I think that the most important feature of it is that it has a lot of fixing, and it truly has a lot of fixing, because when you think about the Path to the Festival, which lets you look for the basic land, and if you already control several types, you actually can scry. The uncommon is great because it's just a 2-mana 2/2, and it gives mana of any color, and doubles the mana if you can flash something back. So if you play the spell from the graveyard, it becomes much better. And it can late game it can redeem a flashback card that you already exiled, so you get 2 more shots on playing it. Then the 4 mana 2/4 that gains 3 life and also adds 1 mana of any color. And you know, this is a big change from what we had in the previous sets where we didn't have those fixing and of any color that much. Like we didn't have a lot of that in AFR, and most of the fixing in Strixhaven was also into green. So you look for forests, and yeah, there was not much dirtling around. I think that this time the green blue will be able to, you know, let you play good spells from other colors that you can, you know, pluck maybe in pack 3. And apart from that, there is a lot of good flashback cards. The blue still provides you with a nice disturb, and you can basically build a deck on the fact that you can ramp, and then you can every spell that you play is basically a 2/1. So I think that will be the general strategy of it. And then you want to play some defensive creature to survive to the moment when you actually can honey ants. I love honey ants.
Yeah, honey ants. Also, Dawnheart Mammoth. I like that one as well.
Yeah. I mean, no, they're all great cards, but I think that I see this deck is going to be more frequently than not a blue-green with whatever bomb that you manage to pick from other colors, because you will not have a big problem splashing. And I think that's how those decks are going to look like. However, if you move to the skeletons, I built it basically 2-colored version. Oh yeah, there you go. You split on 2. So basically, what I did in there is I put some early 2-drops. I put the 2/2 Death Touch Wolves because I think that they're good enough to stop early aggression because they match with all the other 2-drops from other colors. And also, if they manage to survive till the later game, or if you draw them late, they can block successfully the biggest thing that that the opponent can throw at you, because they will have Death Touch. Oh god, what did I do? I did something. Anyway, there is the eccentric farmer, because this is again the sort of deck that you never want to run out of lands, and you want to get as much mana as possible because it will be extremely hungry. Now, I look at the build right now, and definitely it also needs to have more card draw than I put in it, because those decks are usually suffering from not having a good enough card draw. The problem is that it's not so much of it in terms of cheap card draw that will draw you 2-3 cards that will fit into this deck, because you have the Vivisection, I think, that when you sacrifice a creature, but you don't want to sacrifice a creature in this particular deck. So I chucked in the Secrets of the Key, because it's very expensive. But first of all, it gives you the flashback synergies, and you know, over a long time, for 11 mana, it will draw you those 2 extra cards. So you will get there if you run out of steam, which you really don't want to. But also because lots of your things, like the make 4/4 beast, like produce the ants, like the ramps, the ramp spells will be natural 2/1. So even if you're missing on spell drawing, you still draw a lot of cards that functionally behave like 2 cards in 1. So that's why the farmers are so important, because the only thing that you will not be 2/1ing are lands. So you want to make sure that you draw a land and play a land every single turn physically. Plus you use your mana generating creatures. And yeah, I think that this is not by far not the optimal skeleton for this deck, but you know, I try to stay within the realms of reality and put the cards that I think are easily draftable. I do think that most of the time this deck will be able to splash some really strong cards from other colors, and in a way it might behave like the multicolored decks from Theros Beyond, where you basically build this green kind of mana engine, and on top of that mana engine you put whatever you really wanted to play. So you can just basically splash Dream Trawler in those decks, and I think that you will be able to splash double pipped cards if they fit your plan quite easily also here.
Yeah, I think you don't actually need card draw in these decks. I think this is comparable to like you know, in Strixhaven, where you have like all this learn that gives you like 2 cards in one. You don't end up actually needing that like card draw, like raw card draw to have stuff to do. And I think that, you know, make a 4/4 flashback for 7, make another 4/4 will be enough stuff to do with your mana. Plus you're milling some stuff. You're milling flashback cards with your farmers, or like disturb cards.
Oh yeah. No, I think that my main thing for card draw was not to draw spells, was to draw lands, because this is your biggest bottleneck in the deck.
Then I think you should play Consider. I think you should really consider this deck, since it helps you. That's the card I think that really helps you hit your lands. Well, like for example, let's say you're like, you know, need some lands, you play Consider. Your top spell is a flashback card. Well, great, bin it. You still get that card basically, and you're digging deeper for your lands.
Yeah. No, that's a very good one. It's just yeah. It's gonna be hard to build them well. I can tell you already that. We need Sam Black to come in and tell us how to build the skeleton. That's it.
Consider will be a very important part of blue decks.
I can see that 100%.
Yeah, like it. Okay. Next up, I think, is Dimir.
Yeah, so for Dimir, I talked like in Blue and Black a lot about like Decayed Zombies, and I think that like that is one of the like big pockets of synergy in Dimir, where, you know, basically like all of your cards just like say make a Decayed Zombie on them. Not literally, but like a lot of just the random ones do. Like, you know, 2/2 flyer, make a Decayed Zombie. Counter a spell unless they pay 4, make a Decayed Zombie. Things like that, right? So you want to you want to leverage that synergy through cards that can take advantage of them, whether through like, you know, Siege Zombie tapping them, Murkrip Behemoth, that's the like 7/6, using that to sacrifice it. Ecstatic Awakener is like black for a 1/1 that you can pay 2 in a black, sacrifice a creature, you draw a card and transform it into a 4/4. Yeah, so I think the Decayed Zombie synergies are generally more aggressive. Like, you know, Siege Zombie is pinging your opponent, 7/6 menace, like plays defense, but also it has menace. Like, it's a very good attacker. And, you know, Ecstatic Awakener is like a 4/4 for basically 4 mana, and you can get it as early as turn 3. So that's also pretty aggressively slanted. On the other hand, you also have like kind of a Drago control package you can maybe build, where, like I mentioned when I was talking about blue, there's a lot of like instant speed stuff in blue, like counter spells, Devious Cover-Up as your win con maybe. But black also has a lot of like cheap, efficient removal, Defenestrate, Eaten Alive, and Midnight Ambush. And that helps a lot with building a control shell. So like I think you could play like kind of a draw-go control deck in blue-black, where like you're still making a lot of zombies with your cards, so you probably want to utilize them, but you're probably making use of them with like Eaten Alive to make it cost 1 mana, you know, to make it to help your control plan, or like maybe you use like Murkrip Behemoth as your finisher and make it cost 5 and like stabilize you on turn 5, because it's pretty hard for people to get through that. And like you could maybe do a hybrid of both, or you could like just go more aggressive Decayed Zombie focused. But I think that like no matter what you're doing, you probably want to be able to make use of Decayed Zombies, because like again, most of your cards just make a ton of them.
Yeah, they seem to be tacked on to close to everything.
Yeah.
I just cannot stop laughing from the last Big Black Suka comment. Slaps the roof of the card is Bad Boy can fit so many Decayed Zombies. And it's true, and it can utilize them in so many ways as well.
Yeah, so I built 2 versions. It looks like this one is the Drago control version, where like, you know, you can see I'm playing a bunch of spells. I'm playing 2 Devious Cover-Ups, like hoping to loop those 2 to, you know, basically the blue-black deck from Guilds of Ravnica, for example. Use those to improve deck quality and like possibly just win the game by looping those. then you can, and one nice thing, so there's the blue-black uncommon creature, which is a 2/3 that says like other zombies you control get +1/+0, and you might think like, oh, that's an aggressive card, you know, it's boosting power, but also it's just a 2-mana 2/3, so like it's a good blocker anyways. You might as well play it in your control deck, and like most of your creatures are zombies anyways. And you know, you just play a bunch of like cheap removal here, and use your decayed zombies mostly as like you control a game, and eventually like you can either use them to attack or like use them for eaten alive. There's things that you can do with them. Yeah, I didn't put any copies of what's the sack a creature draw 3. I forget what's called, Vivisection. You could maybe play that if you're like low on ways to make use of your decayed zombies, as you know, in a control deck like this. But I'm not totally convinced on that. Oh, another thing that another card that I like here. Did I put that in? I can't quite tell. Unblinking Observer or something?
Yes, there are 2 of them.
Yeah. I think that card will be important for ramping to, like, for being able to cast more spells, and also being just a fine 2-drop that trades off. You know, playing this on turn 2, now you can hold up a bunch of stuff on turn 3, including like removal and counter spells. I think that will be pretty important. But yeah, and there was also a more aggressive version I built. Do you have that one?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to go into the rules question by last pick real quick? It's a tricky one. So if you corpse gobble your tokens, but they kill your lord in response, do you get the toughness?
I believe.
Why? So that doesn't change, no?
You definitely still get the stats. Since the sacrifice is part of the cost, once you've paid the cost, the number is locked in. So if you have like 2 3/2s and you sacrifice it, then they kill your lord like after you've already paid the cost. They can't change the fact that you've already sacrificed 6 power of creatures. Like you've already paid that cost. So yeah, for this build, I like include 2 more crit behemoths as like finishers here, as more in a more aggressively slanted shell, as well as like the 2 ecstatic awakeners, that 1/1s that turn into 4/4s. And also I included something that I'm like not quite sold on, but I think might be good with enough synergies, which is a Rotten Reunion. Black for an instant, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard, make a decayed zombie, flash black 1 in a black. I think like I think the card might be good enough to play just like in most black decks, but I think it will definitely be good in like these like very decayed zombie focused blue-black decks, because like you sometimes get the upside of like eating a disturb or a flashback spell, so like you can get some card advantage from that. And I think just like making 2 decayed zombies in this deck will be comparable to like a Raise the Alarm, like making 2 1/1 tokens, where like they're definitely not like as good as like real 2/2s, but you'll probably have enough ways to use them that like they will be definitely worth something.
So my question to you is that, by the way, I also put the Rotten Reunion in my skeleton, which I think that this card is going to do just enough to be valuable, because you know, in some matchups you will get quite a good value from exiling the card anyway, so why not do it, you know? And especially when you have the zombie synergies. But are you not quite sold on the what's the card's name? The Ghoulish Procession, the one whenever a creature dies, you create a decayed token as a sort of like a source of constant generation of your zombies?
I mean, my problem is that card says like whenever a non-token creature dies, right?
Yeah.
You need like a non-token creature to die to make a zombie. It feels like you don't get to control when you make a zombie with that card.
No, you have a decent removal package.
Wait, does it count your opponent's creatures as well?
It says whenever a creature, or is it you control?
I thought it was you control. If it also...
No, whenever 1 or more creature die.
Okay, I like that card more now that I know that it includes your opponent's creatures as well. Okay, I think it's decent. I don't think it's like busted or anything.
No, I don't think it's busted. I think it's just like I think that over a course of a game that you're trying to play here, it will generate you,
Yeah.
Some.
Now that I know that it works with like you just removing their creature as well, I like it a lot more. but yeah, that I didn't include it because I thought it was only when your creatures died.
No, I was thinking more, eaten alive. I sacrifice my zombie, kill your creature, get a zombie back anyway, so who cares?
Oh, it doesn't actually work with eaten alive.
Yeah, because that exiles. Damn it! They thought about it.
They thought about it. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Oh, another thing to mention about Rotten Reunion. I mentioned this for Homestead Courage as well, but like I just like cheap spells with flashback help a lot with controlling day night.
Yeah.
Especially like Rotten Reunion also has instant speed, so like if you want to flip it to night, which like you won't often want to do in black, but like I think more often than you want to do in white, then you can like have something to do on your opponent's turn as well.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense.
I do like that second build. That's really sweet.
Yeah, I like this one as well. Although I'm definitely going to try out the controlling one as well.
Yeah, I will, but I will fail because I cannot play that kind of control decks. They are difficult. This one is more my stuff. You put a 7/6 with menace and just smash them into pieces. That's the way to play.
Yeah, I don't know how people are going to deal with a 7/6 menace on turn 5.
Not well, not well, and especially in a deck that has startles, as I said. I'll at least double block it, and one of these things will be my 2/0, my 2/2 Death Toucher. Oh, that gets -2/0, and I get another zombie. Oh, damn it!
Yeah, I think startle will be quite good with behemoths.
There's another question in chat regarding Olivia's Midnight Ambush. So I think we touched on this card a little earlier. Where we were of the opinion that even the -2/2 side of it is pretty decent. And I think we have enough of instant speed spells in this deck as well that we can make it night if we want to, basically, is the thing.
There's a lot of speed, actually, in this deck. Like, for example, Ecstatic Awakener can activate at instant speed as well, I believe.
Yep. There's even some mana sinks here. So,
yeah, I think basically for both shells, I just put in like one each of Defenestrate, Olivia's Midnight Ambush, and Eaten Alive, because I think that like all three are good.
Right.
Like Defenestrate is probably the best out of them, but like I think it's close. So like I'm just like, okay, black has good removal. You'll probably have some good removal. It doesn't really matter which is which.
Indeed.
Yeah,
indeed.
I think that having all three just covers all the bases, just in case.
Yeah, agreed. But I think the conclusion is, there are very few cases where you're staying away from Olivia's Midnight Ambush for some reason. I think that card is in general just a good pickup. Doesn't really matter whether you...
I don't know, Alrund, if you missed this, but Jason made a really, really good point in the beginning of the stream where the decks that won't activate day and night cycle are having, usually much smaller creatures. So your Olivia's Midnight Ambush will be way better against them as a -2/2. And the ones that have large creatures will more often than not activate the day and night cycle.
Because they are mostly playing werewolves, and Olivia's Midnight Ambush then kills them. So that's ideal.
Yeah, I think like this build of blue-black might be the least vulnerable to Olivia's Midnight Ambush.
Indeed, because it has big creatures and it can play by daylight. Right.
Yeah, like you're playing 4/4s with your Ecstatic Awakeners and 7/6s with your Morcrit Behemoths as your creatures.
Revenge of the Drowned also will take care of it, and for just enough probably.
Yeah. Let's go to the next. Oh wait, we have some standout cards. I think you mentioned most of them. Do you want to highlight anything specific here, Jason?
If I might ask you one thing, Ecstatic Awakener, I want to hear your take on that card.
Ooh, it's sick.
I think it's very good.
Yeah.
I think in black, mostly like I think there's so many incidental decayed zombies that like you mostly want to worry about like the payoffs rather than the enablers for making decayed zombies. And like just like the other cards, you'll just naturally have. And I think I think just like the payoffs are more scarce. And Ecstatic Awakener, right? So at first I was a bit low on it because I was like, oh, you play this on turn 1, then you play a 2-drop. I don't really want to flip this on into a 4/4 on turn 3 by sacking my 2-drop, right? That just doesn't seem great against like removal, or it just doesn't seem that great in general. But then like I realized you don't need to like curve like exactly like that.
Yeah.
Play this card, right? Like a common play will just be like, play this as a 4-mana 4/4 that sacks a Decayed Zombie to draw a card on like turn 4 or 5 or something, and that's pretty good. Sometimes you get this, and like you can get this down on turn 1 as well. I don't know. It just seems like basically a 4/4 draw card.
Yeah, it's basically Priest of the 4/4 Flying Demon.
I also like see it late in the game, like a 1-mana 1/1 that tells you your removal doesn't work.
Yeah, indeed. I think this card is very strong. I think
I still like Morcrypt Behemoth over it in terms of threats, because I think a 7/6 menace is just so hard to deal with. Looking at like removal and like stats and such, but I think it is quite strong, and I think like Black's commons are like very strong.
They're quite stacked. I mean, just the removal package is just like, whoa. It's going to be hard to see if it's open, to be fair.
Yep.
Because there's a good chunk of creatures. I don't know if it's going to be the strongest decks that it creates, but definitely the power level of the cards is there.
Yeah, fully agree. I also like Revenge of the Drowned a lot. Where, it does so much, basically.
I don't like the choice that the opponent gets.
Yeah, it's definitely worse that your opponent gets a choice than like if they didn't.
True.
Significantly worse. But I think it's a decent card.
Yeah.
Yeah, just good. Okay. Next up is Gruul. My suggestion would be to do Gruul and then take a short break. You guys okay with that?
Yeah,
I'm quite happy because I just ran out of my tea.
Yeah, indeed, and I can refill my water and stuff. Okay, but let's do Gruul first, right? So I think the 1.0 Gruul strategy will be related to Wolf and Werewolves here. It seems like a pretty core aspect to the strong cards in this archetype, and that of course makes you very much in favor of playing during the night. I think as a result you will not be casting spells on your own turn from time to time, right? So there will be turns where you actively want to not cast anything. So I think things like mana sinks are the premium here, and so are instant speed spells. So I listed a couple of them. I think the Lamphold Harrier ability is pretty strong. Jason even talked me up on that one a little bit. Fangblade Eviscerator is a good one. Hound Tamer is a good one. Then there's some instant speed spell stuff like Defend the Celestis and Might of the Old Ways. So yeah, definitely ways of passing your own turn and still using your mana anyway. At the same time, you do not want to double spell during your own turn, because that would turn night into day again. So I think therefore you want creatures to cast over the entire curve and not just a bunch of 2-drops that you want to double spell with on turn 4. I think that's important. So I think this deck will be playing more 3-drops, more 4-drops, more 5-drops than, for example, an aggressive Boros deck will be doing. Because, yeah, you don't want to double spell on turn 4 is the thing. Yeah, so heaps of power and toughness. So very stumpy feel, like a lot of green-red archetypes had in previous sets. And that allows you to leverage combat tricks very well. So I think, yeah, Jason already talked about combat tricks being the new removal, and I think that goes for red-green as well. Hey, to the cube, welcome, welcome. So yeah, let's go into the draft archetype here as well. I'll quickly bring it up. So yeah, I think pretty straightforward, most of the things we talked about. So the Lamphold Harrier in the 2-drop slot, Pestilent Wolf. You play Harrier rather than Wolf, but I think it's a fine alternative. Of course, the uncommon is very strong. I also like the flexibility on Outland Liberator. Bird Admirer seems like a very strong card, because I think this deck might be might be perform pretty poorly against flyers in general. I think Bird Admire is one of the few ways that can stop one of the Azorius flyer decks that Jason presented earlier. So I think this card is pretty important. Here's the Hound Tamer that we talked about with a very nice mana sink. Being able to put a 1/1 counter on it is on anything is pretty strong. Yeah, just beaters like Tavern Smasher. 6/5 for 4 is a beater. Imagine this getting haste from the, I think it's the Village Watch that gives haste to other werewolves. Yeah, imagine it being night, you having this on the board, and then stuff like Tavern Smasher coming in with haste, being a 6/5. I think at that point you're most likely winning those games. Yeah,
I think that this is the main problem, according to me, that most of the times when you play werewolves, you have to imagine that it's night.
Yeah, I think you will be trying very hard to make it night, basically. And an opponent that is able to bring it back to day constantly will be very annoying to play against. Yeah, that's my thoughts. A card that I'm missing here is the green 3-drop, the Wolf Enchantment that you highlighted earlier, Pawel. What was the name again? I think it might be pretty good. I think I missed on that.
Hey, Ekil.
Hey, Ekil. Thanks for the raid. 27 viewers from Ekil stream. Welcome everybody. We're in the middle of a skeleton breakdown.
It means that we have larger viewership than the last Pro Tour winner.
Hey. You guys want to add anything regarding the red-green archetype, Paul or Jason?
Yeah, I think mostly like, I very much agree that like the green enchantment is like quite strong. Like it's basically, you know, bull strength, except it's permanent and enables passing to make it night.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's also like mana sinks are going to be so important if this deck is going to work. I think that Hound Tamer is like the super prime thing to have in the deck in general.
Yeah.
And also, the thing is that this deck looks to me like it's very, 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 very heavily dependent on uncommons, because the uncommons, I mean, look at the suite of uncommons that you have here. There is the Hound Tamer, there is the Kessig Naturalist, there is the Outland Liberator. They are going to be so important for this deck to come together.
Yeah.
Because the common werewolves are not like super amazingly impressive. So think of it that you play against a white-red deck. They have the white-red Signpost uncommon that basically whenever you flip night to day, you put a +1/+1 counter. You do the night-day cycle a couple of times, and they basically put enough +1/+1 counters on their creatures to completely blank the bonuses you get from your werewolves. And their creatures stay big day or night. It doesn't matter. So
yeah, that seems like a worst-case scenario.
It is a worst-case scenario, but almost every color that is not werewolf-centric will have those kind of cards that on the flip from day to night, they basically completely eradicate any advantage that you have from having werewolves. So you really need to make sure that your things are strong, and the uncommon level only provides that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like I definitely am not looking forward to play against the 3/4 first, the guy that can give himself first strike. Jesus Christ, this thing.
Yeah. I also think that like werewolves are a bit light at common, which is weird since like the set is literally, you know, supposed to be the werewolf set out of the two sets. Yeah, like looking at, like we mentioned earlier, red seems a bit like confused, not confused, but like split up, where like you don't have very many like red commons that benefit your werewolves. You just have a handful. And like green also only has a handful of werewolves at common, and like they don't seem like that impressive. They're like fine, but like not really a pull. I think honestly the biggest pull into werewolves at common for me is the green flash enchantment, and like otherwise common, like I don't know why I should be drafting werewolves, but certainly there are a lot of good uncommons, so and rares even. So like that could be the reason to draft werewolves.
Yeah, fully agree. And I think a lot of the the werewolf uncommons, if you're not a werewolf deck, they're not very interesting, right? Where with other strong uncommons, like red removal spells, or they work in multiple decks. I think for most of the werewolves, they're good in a werewolf deck. They're not very good outside of that, and I think that's a bonus.
I mean, like the Hound Tamer, for example, is good like everywhere, but yeah, it's to some extent, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like the Hound Tamer, maybe not, but like the Keswick Naturalist, the Fanglade Brigand, the Village Watch, most of their bonuses actively buff other werewolves, and not other stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's also, yeah, I mean, you say that the Hound Tamer is good on raid, which I agree obviously with, but the point is that I think outside of the red-green, you just don't have enough to fight over the day and night. But when you're in red-green, you really want to actually start putting some effort into fighting what time of the day it is. And that completely, because you will just have enough density of the payoffs, and you won't get enough density in green X.
Yeah. Maybe during FNM you should draft werewolves more because it's Friday night.
Ooh.
Ooh, good one.
Ooh.
Okay. Next up, black-green Golgari. Pawel, we have the enabler payoff slide again before the actual skeleton. So you want to go over this one?
Yeah, sure. So green-black seems to have a theme of morbid of some sorts. Like you want to trade, you want to lose creatures, you want to put creatures in graveyard, and I don't think that this theme is very strong, and also I don't think it's very easy to enable in general, or it's tougher to enable when you want it than you might probably suspect initially. So I think that general rule for the green-black will be you want to have good on-rate creatures, and then basically whenever you can accrue some value, that's a bonus for you. I think that's the thing. But as with everything in black, you have the decayed tokens that can die at will because you just can attack and they are guaranteed to die. So that's a nice thing. And I think that enablers, as you put here, the Diregraph Horde creates 2 bodies. That's great. Hobbling Zombie will always trade and create a body that you can dispose later, which is great. And I think that there's the discussion. Wow, no, Golgari was great in Kaldheim. Yeah, that's for sure.
You should try to not read the chat well.
Yeah, no.
No worries.
No, it's there. It's there.
It's there. It's present. It's constantly present.
And then, the payoffs. I think that Grizzly Ghoul will be a problem in many games, and it's absolutely fine when you play it just as a 4/3 with trample for 4 mana. So I think that this card is going to be quite useful in this particular deck. I do like Morbid Opportunist, and I think in most of my black skeletons I put it because I think that getting the mana, the card advantage in this format is going to be more important than elsewhere. So I think that since you can activate it again quite a lot, because it's one or other creature dies. So if you kill it, if you suicide attack with your decayed zombie, you're gonna get a card. So that's quite fine. And the same with Ghoulish Procession, although it doesn't work with the decayed counters, which makes it a bit trickier. But it gives you the fuel for later. So I think that the card is quite good. And I think that Diregraph Rebirth is the sort of potentially contentious card because it's not necessarily like a massive payoff for what you're doing, but I think it's just like such a great value card because it's basically late in the game. It's redraw 2 creatures, so it's going to be always good on rate.
Yep.
And that covers the.
What do you think of the occultist, the novice? I'm not that high on it, but I noticed you had it in the skeleton as well. What do you like?
I think that it can do some things, and it's just like a chomper basically that that you can reutilize and stop something. So I think there is the sizable amount of the X1s in the format, so they are not completely useless. And I think that the ability to draw a card and the alternative way of sacrificing something for a couple of spells that let you sacrifice things is not a terrible thing.
No, that's for sure. I mean, the fact
not
that
super high on that card, but I think that some cards I put in my skeletons, I'm not particularly high on them, but I see that they will be easy to get.
Yeah.
And there is value in cards that are easy to get because you can plan around them very easily.
Yeah, for sure.
I do think I agree that I also don't like novice occultists. Like, I think generally you'll be able to make enough decayed zombies that like you just rather not play occultist and like just sacrifice your zombies instead. But like I do think it is better in black green than in other black decks at the very least.
Yeah.
And also I believe JJohn88 mentioned in chat the what's it called? Ecstatic Awakener, which is kind of a black enabler for morbid stuff. That's the 1-mana 1/1 that sacks a thing for 3 mana to draw a card and transform into a 4/4. And yeah, I already talked about that when doing blue-black, but yeah, that would fit in here as well.
Yep, agree. Okay, let's go into the skeleton. I'll bring it up in Seal deck again, so we can highlight some of the cards.
And there we have the Ecstatic Awakener as the first creature, basically. But yeah, I mean, I think that this card, probably I should have put 2 of them and skipped maybe the Novice Occultist or something. But I think that this card is just, it's going to be very annoying, to say the least, because it's good at any stage of the game. And, I think we learned in the last 2 years of Limited that 1-drops that are good at any stage of the game are really powerful and should not be ignored. And I think that this card definitely, the ability to turn any kind of creature that you don't want, like the decayed zombies, or creature that is about to die anyway because someone targets it with removal, into a sort of +3/+3 enchantment that draws you a card. That's really a good price. 3 mana for +3/+3 permanently and draw a card is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and it gets flying as well, right? I mean, this is one of my front runners.
No, this doesn't get flying. No, does it? It just
is
vanilla,
it the demon?
No?
Oh, okay. I'm just so used to demons having flying. Okay, no, you're right.
This is
that makes it a little worse. Okay.
It would have been busted if it made the 4/4 fly.
I thought it was busted. I've been saying it was busted all the time. Okay, but this brings it back to reasonable. Yeah, okay.
It's still a common, yeah. It's still a common. And I think that, again, like things like Pestilent Wolf will allow you to trade always. And you want to trade in this deck because you want to activate Morbid several times, so that's fine. I mean, you want to trade with it in a later stage of the game when it actually gives you something. But, again, a 2-drop that can do some damage early, and then later they have a difficult choice between blocking and letting it in, which means that it can tick for some damage. Eccentric Farmer, if you play a deck with the Diagraph Rebirth, is getting slightly better because you will get your land probably. It's like 83% chance on average of getting a land in the 17 land deck. Again, when you have some other things that mill you, or if you have the Evolving Wilds, it becomes that much better because you can easily guarantee that activation. But also it will put some creatures into graveyard, and then you can reanimate them with the Diagraph Rebirth. That's also good. What else is there? The Burdened Mire is probably a must because you will have a problem with flyers. So I think that this card is going to be quite pivotal. Also, I think that 4 toughness is the magic number of the set. Just looking at the numbers, 4 toughness is basically requires unconditional removal almost always. So having the 4 toughness creatures protects you from most of the spells that, barring the deal 5 and then some rares, they will have to deal with it in some kind of permanent way. I already mentioned the Grizzly Ghoul is just great. Diagraph Horde is great because it gives you fuel for your sacrifices that you might have. And then Behemoth is the sort of like the kill spell, I think, for this kind of deck. I mean, obviously we could put one rare, so I put the most busted rare that I've found, and I don't think that there is an argument that this card is bad. So it puts multiple bodies on the board as well, so why not?
Yeah, it's also a great reanimate target, right? I think.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a great anything target.
No, but
first of all, it's a great removal target also when the opponent sees it on the battlefield, because if you don't kill it, you're dead.
What I meant was that there aren't a lot of great targets for Rebirth, right? Outside of the Behemoths and the Horde.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think that I think that Rebirth you shouldn't be focusing, like it shouldn't be like the Ikoria kind of I cycle a massive thing into graveyard and then reanimate it and I'm happy. Here, because you can use it twice and you can use it in some kind of like aggressive attacks that force multiple trades, you can actually play it twice in one turn for quite cheap. You probably want to enable this kind of like smaller value thing that you trade with multiple creatures, you reanimate 2 of the ones that died on your side, and you're way ahead then. That's more how I see this card working. And then on top of that, I put a lot of removal, and I put Shadow Beast Sighting, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's better just to put a couple of chunkier creatures, because then they will become a reanimation target. This, on the other hand, is a 2-for-1 on its own, so why not?
Yeah, so going back to Diagraph Rebirth, actually, just thought of something. But imagine attacking with the 7/6 Menace, right? Let's say your opponent wants to trade with it. They probably block with 2 creatures, and 3 creatures die, including your Behemoth. Right now, your Diagraph Rebirth costs 2 on the front side, 4 on the back side, and it's probably turn 6. So you play it, get back your 7/6, flash it back, get back another creature. Seems pretty good.
Yeah,
seems pretty good, indeed.
Yeah, indeed.
Nice.
Yeah, and I think that the deck is going to be it's going to be probably the strongest Golgari incarnation that we've seen in a while, because I think black is strong, and it's strong in a way that will benefit this deck in particular, because this deck is going to be all about decent cards, and then the synergies are secondary. You might have a pocket of synergy here and there, but if you don't, you're not going to cry. You're just going to play on rate and be happy with it.
I'll give you as far as strongest since Call Time, but I doubt it'll be
better than Elves.
Okay, but in Call Time it was strong because it was painfully underdrafted.
Fair, but also I think Elves was fairly strong regardless, anyways.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I got my share of trophies with Elves, that's for sure. I mean, this deck was, I think that one of the better examples of attrition game in a long time, because it also could have explosive starts, and then in the late game I was capable of drawing copious amounts of cards every single turn, because I reanimated this, I returned this from the grave, played the Halvar, and then you all of a sudden have 7 cards in your hand and your opponent is staring there with 2.
Okay, let's leave the plane of Call Time and go into Orzhov.
It was a good plane. It was a good plane.
Tell us more about Orzhov.
Yeah, I don't think we want to take inspiration from Orzhov in Call Time.
Oh no.
Certainly.
Angel Tribal turned out to be pretty bad.
Yeah, but anyways, so Orzhov, again, just white has aggressive tools, black also has aggressive tools, and black's removal is pretty efficient, and it's just I think white and black are the deepest colors, at least from looking at common so far. So I think white-black is just fairly straightforward. Play the good white cards, play the good black cards. And Decayed Zombies and Sacrifice in black naturally synergize with white's going wide theme. Right, you can either, you can use your Decayed Zombies to augment your go wide for a turn, with an Alpha Strike. And you can use your random tokens from white to help your black sacrifice themes as well. So yeah, not much else to say here. Just the deck kind of builds itself.
Okay.
And yeah, here, you know, you have some enabler. Like this is very similar to in blue black, except now it's like more specifically sacrifice it instead of just like taking advantage of your zombies in other ways. And I think you might want to play Rotten Reunion in this kind of deck as well, because just like making two decayed zombies, I think will be worth a decent amount. Yeah. And yeah.
I like the point that you made earlier, Jason, about how the 2/2 attackers are extra relevant here because you're an aggressive deck. Yeah, I like that.
Also, to answer a question in the chat from JJohn88, how relevant is Candle Trap, the white give something defender enchantment that has like 2 and a white, like exile the creature and sacrifice this, activate only if you have Coven. I think that card is not going to be very good in white decks because white will be aggressive and attacking on the ground. Like even in blue-white where it has flyers, it'll still be attacking on the ground. So even if you can turn it on, giving something defender just like doesn't do very much. And like 4 mana sometimes exile it is not going to be great. So yeah. Yeah,
I think the card is a trap.
Yeah, quite fittingly, in fact.
Okay, let's move on. I'll quickly bring up the...
but yeah, this is just, you know, what I had in the white half archetype, plus like the black removal and sacrifice cards. Yeah, fairly straightforward.
Yep, like the deck. Like most of the inclusions, double Homestead Courage, Jason patented special already.
I think that we're going to get convinced to it quite rapidly.
Sorry, what'd you say, sir?
I think that we're going to get convinced that Homestead Courage is the truth quite rapidly when the format starts.
That it's not the truth quite rapidly, as would happen with Kick in the Door. But I have more confidence this time.
I think that I was not very keen on the Kick in the Door, but I think that this one has this appealing case because that's useful in so many things that these decks are trying to do.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah. I do think white decks in this format will be much more like 2-drop focused than like red decks were in AFR. Like I think AFR turned out to not really be a 2-drop format and more of a 5-drop format. And this format I think will be a 2-drop format.
Yep. And I think we've seen the Witch so many times already, and we're going to see the Witch in green white and Boros as well. And that card is just very strong. That'll be one of the premium 2s.
Yeah, I think all the 2s are like pretty good, like pretty important to have. Like it's just important to have a density of 2s, but which is like one of the best.
Yep. And indeed, as G John is mentioning in chat, Homestead Courage is the way to double spell in white, turning it back from night to day rather easily. So yeah, it's a great card.
Metal Mario asks about Head Witch's Mask, which is short sword, except it costs white and equips for 2 and stuff. And also gives the creature like can't be blocked by creatures with more than 2. I don't know what the ability is, but like some like not that relevant ability. I don't think it's good. I think that you want to push damage in other ways. Like your best 2-drop is already kind of evasive. And you know sometimes you'll have flyers. And also I think white will be a go wide deck, not in the like, oh, I want to 1x1 attrition off my creatures with equipment, because like there's not that much equipment in the set. There's like basically 0 equipment in the set. So like it's not going to be easy to like make use of your go wide stuff by like, you know, trading off one creature at a time. And like using equipment for attrition. Rather you'd rather just like get your opponent to dead by like alphaing.
Yep.
Oh, yes, NCA. Homestead Courage best common, Siege Zombie second best common. Insert fire emoji here.
Yep. And also Clarm is reiterating a point that we made earlier about how Homestead Courage is even better with the flyer, so we see it performing in Azorius very well as well. We've done Azorius earlier in the stream.
And indeed, it had multiple homestead carriages.
Yep. Okay. Moving on to Selesnya, we talked about Coven quite a bit already, so might be reiterating ourselves here a little bit. Most creatures in Selesnya are human, so the tribal payoffs are close to free. It's hard to find a non-human creature that you want to play in these decks. Coven is one of the few payoffs for going white, actually, outside of the Ritual of Hope that Jason mentioned earlier, and Dawnhard Wardens, which is the green-white uncommon for Selesnya. There are not much anthem effects, so not much that pays you off for going white, outside of the fact that the more creatures, the more likely you have Coven active, of course. Draw seems to come from Disturb cards mostly. Also, of course, the Search Party Captain that we highlighted earlier, and Might of the Old Ways also seems like a good card here. Gavany Trapper is the 0/2 for 1. We talked a bit about this card before the stream, and we had different opinions about this card, but I think it's pretty important to play a 1-drop, and Gavany Trapper is obviously a 1-drop, and it also has a very rare power, which is 0. So
it'll lack of power.
Lack of power, but given the fact that Coven is pretty important, that might be better than 1 power actually.
Okay, I will say that I am on the side of this card not being very powerful.
Oh no!
I don't want the power in this card. Like,
that's definitely right.
on that point.
Yeah, but
I think it very much depends if you play the slow kind of version of Coven deck, where you want to build a board stall and then basically win on having more triggers than they have. Then it might be useful because you just tap stuff. But 2 mana is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 mana is a lot, but it depends how small your opponent's board is, right?
I prefer to play the 1 mana 1/1 that like has Disturb, turns into a 1 mana 1/1 flyer.
Yeah, that's a better card.
Like I think that the 0 power is not very relevant for enabling Coven when I have Homestead Courage. So
True. Let's go over the last 2 points here. So fight spells look not bad, but less good here because a lot of our creatures are small and therefore fighting is more risky, I would say. So that might make us lean toward Candle Trap, but again, might be a trap here as well. Jason is like, no Candle Trap for Jason.
I'm probably the biggest apologist of the Candle Trap here, but I think that it's actually, Abzan is not its place. I think that it's gonna be just white-blue. That's where you want to probably use it, and maybe green-blue with a splash of white for some bombs.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it plays out. 1 mana is not a lot to remove a creature's power. Enabling Coven goes best by playing creatures early and with different power, and of course +1/+1 counters, as we mentioned earlier, can help in making sure that any board with 3 creatures basically enables Coven. G-John is saying rather than playing some lower impact cards that enable Coven, maybe you could run the 4 mana 3/3 that makes a 1/1. Yeah, that's definitely a card that you could play, although the 4 mana slot is pretty contested in white, as it is, with the Search Party Captain, but also the Bashri's Acolyte variant that is pretty good in 4. So I think,
but I mean, Search Party Captain is 4 mana in theory only.
Yeah, that's true. But I think you still have the Bashri's Acolyte over the 3/3 that makes him 1/1 most of the time. But yeah, it's definitely a card that helps and that is playable in this archetype.
Yeah, the 2/3 that like puts 2 counters on things, puts a +1/+1 counter on different things, was like very good at enabling Coven too, because you can probably distribute the counters in a way that enables Coven.
Yeah, exactly. So that brings us to the enabler payoff page. So Coven payoffs, few and far between, but the ones that that are there are pretty good. Of course, drawing a card off of Might of the Old Ways is pretty strong. Downward Hardens being one of the payoffs for going white. The other side of Ambitious Farmhand is a 3/3 lifelinker, which is of course a decent creature. And then there's the Witch that we've talked about before. Yeah, enablers mostly about +1/+1 counters. We had a nice discussion on Timberland Guide earlier today, where I compared it to the white 1 mana spell that Jason is so high on. I think the good thing about Guide is that it brings a body of its own, and in Coven it's pretty relevant that you have 3 bodies. So in that sense, I like Guide similarly to the 1 mana white trick, where it not only enables Coven with the counter, but it also adds a body of its own. I think that's very relevant. And here's the Chaplain of Alms that we talked about earlier. That is definitely a better 1-drop than the 0/2 tapper. It's a great card in this deck.
I think that you miss one of my favorite enablers, which is the Dawnheart Mentor, the 3 mana 0/4 that puts a 1/1 human creature token. I think that this is like honestly the best possible enabler of Coven that exists. And then, you know, in the late game, since you're trying to get the board stall and keep all the creatures in board, later the power of giving, you know, +3/+3 to something is going to be insane.
Yep, and I like that one as well, because the 2/2 immediately flies then, right? On turn 3. If you play the 2/2 on 2,
exactly.
and then, that's great. Yeah, I like that a lot. Yep, like that a lot. Okay, let's go into the skeleton. Yeah, so a lot of the cards that we've just highlighted, we see the Chaplain. Here's the Beloved Beggar that we talked a little about. Beloved Beggar also has the rare 0 power, but the backside is just very valuable to have. So I could see this card being playable here.
I would say uncommon 0 power instead of rare, but sure.
Thank you. Carrier Commando is a very pushed variant of the 3/1 for 1 and a white. Not only has it flash, but you can also use it to destroy a target artifact or enchantment. So that seems a card that we like to play. 3 power is different than most of the other 2-drops, because most have 1 or 2. So that could be relevant. Of course, we see the Search Party Captains. That's your premium card draw here. The Silversmith, the Bashley's Accurate variant. Troop seems like a very strong card to me. I'll pull it over here so it's not behind our webcams. I really like this one. Not only is it very flexible in the sense that you can play it early or late, and it scales with the game basically, but also the fact that Coven, you get another 1/1 counter on the target creature you control. So it's not only a Coven payoff, but it also further enables Coven, because it can, by distributing the counters, make your board even have more different powers. I like that a lot. Join the Dance is a card that helps you go white. So if you have the payoffs like Ritual of Hope, I think it's a good card. Double Might of the Old Ways here, because you're of course hoping to draw cards off of that. And I also like Flare of the Faith in these decks, because basically all of your creatures are human anyway. So this reads as 1 and a white, +3/+3, and indestructible, which is, I think, a pretty strong combat trick. So yeah, that's green-white. Any comments, Pawel, Jason?
Not really. This is like basically what I imagined.
Yeah, makes sense.
My skeleton is way more stacked on 4-drops, but I don't know which one is going to be better. Basically, it's so hard to say now, right?
Yeah. So this is the 16 lands, try to get there quickly variant, and I think your skeleton is more the 70 lands, try to stall the board, then get the Coven. Yeah.
Maybe I should mention now that the stats from the previous sets were that you had 3 creatures on board without looking at the different powers or toughness is roughly 40% of the games in turns 4 to 8. So let's hope that you're much better in putting 3 creatures on board in this format than in the previous ones, because if that's numbers, Truth and Coven is not going to be something that's going to be enabled a lot.
Yep.
But I think that there are tools to do it. It's just that there's something to keep in mind, that it's very easy to make a very optimistic scenario, but it's also very easy in reality that those very optimistic scenarios are going to be quickly verified by life.
Yeah. Let's hope that the fact that it combines Coven with Go White, that makes it easier to get 3 creatures on the board.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be interesting to see in the first couple of weeks how many creatures in a deck do you need to make the green-white work, because you need some interaction, but you also need like a proper critical mass of creatures in deck.
Yeah, fully agree. Okay. Next up, Izzet. I think that's yours, Pawel.
Why do I get the rubbish ones?
I mean, it's sweet. Well, I'll give it that.
We've put only consider here on purpose, by the way.
Enablers.
Yeah.
Consider, because it's 1 mana.
Yeah, and it's the best. It's miles ahead of all the other enablers, so we decided to just leave it at consider.
I think that you could put also the other 1 mana investigate card as an enabler, because you can cast it the second time after that. So that's, I think.
Yeah, that one is also decent.
Potentially an enabler. Yeah, but I mean, Izzet wants to play spells, and that's basically the point. So you probably want to build a deck that has sorceries and instants, and I think that this deck is going to be relatively not so great. Maybe famous last words, but whatever. But I think that it will all hang on the number of Seize the Storms that you can get. Unfortunately, it's an uncommon, so I wouldn't count on too many. But I think that if you get 2 Seize the Storms, you're in the money and you can start building your deck. Because otherwise, Storm Screedix is something that can kill your opponent. That's fine. Thermal Alchemist also. But Festival Crusher, it can grow massive, but in the end, it's just a 1/3. They just block it with something with 3 power, and that's it. So unless you can make some kind of like semi-constructed grade deck, it's gonna be tricky to play. And also, you have to keep in mind that you want to have a lot of spells, but at the same time, then if you put a lot of spells, you might have nothing to kill with. So that's another problem that you might run into.
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about Seize the Storm, is that it's a spell in itself, and all the other.
That's the nice part of it. But I think that this is going to be a very difficult deck to come together well, unless the spells are very undervalued.
Yeah. So, by the way, one thing about Seize the Storm, which might not be obvious, I've seen a bunch of people get this wrong. It counts both. It counts both things in exile, which is easy to remember, but it also it's not the serpentine curve text where it creates a thing with +1/+1 counters equal to it. It gives the creature that ability.
Yeah, exactly. It's not static. It's dynamic.
Yeah. The creature will grow as you cast more spells, and what that means is that it effectively immediately counts itself. Right? Yeah. Normally, cards like Invade the City or whatever from War of the Spark don't count itself. And Serpentine Curve did kind of count itself in the fact that it counted the number in your graveyard +1. And Seize the Storm will count itself because once Seize the Storm goes to the graveyard after it resolves, the token will see it, and so it'll immediately be bigger.
Yeah.
So
is there even time where you can kill it before it sees itself? No, there is no way.
If there's 0 other.
Okay.
I think it'll still enter as a 1/1 basically. I think there's no time for it to die as a 0/0, even if your graveyard is.
I mean, obviously, I'm gonna check it at one stage. Probably against Sparky though, but that's an interesting thing to check, at least if it works.
No, but
I think you're right. I think you're right for the record, but yeah.
I think when it goes on the stack, the card is in the graveyard, and then when it resolves.
No, when it goes on stack, the card definitely is not in the graveyard, but then it resolves, goes to graveyard, and then there's layers, and no one knows how rules work in
now
Magic, but we're happy.
Then I'm lost. Maybe there's somebody in the chat who knows, but yeah. Okay,
yeah.
let's. Yeah,
the
go
chat
ahead.
is all. There's 2 in a red for Tormenting Voice at instant speed, I believe, with flashback for 3 in a red, something like that. So you Tormenting Voice twice, and there's also 3 in a red for a 2/1 at common. These are both commons. So 3 in a red for a 2/1 that ETB buys back an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. My inclination is to think that those are too slow. Like 3 mana is a lot for a Tormenting Voice, and like sure you can get card advantage from it later. I think it might be better than Secrets of the Key for card advantage, I guess, but it is still pretty slow. And the 4 mana 2/1 just feels like the body doesn't matter nearly enough. It just like you're paying 4 mana to get a spell back, which is slow.
To make your elemental smaller. So I think that if we look at the skeleton, I think I didn't put the 3 mana draw spell, but I did put 2 of the elementalists because I think that in the end, recouping it will be probably just worth enough, but I'm not sure.
Certainly gets better if you have a lot of like cheap removal, for example.
Well, yeah, no, that's why this deck I basically focused on having cheap removal. Is there some bounce there as well? No, I don't know. I put Geist Wave as well. Maybe to do some trickery with the Elementalist or Organ Hoarder as well.
That's fair.
But I think that basically it's cheap creatures to try blocking. I don't know if Festival Crasher is the exact thing that I wanted to put there, but any 2/2 will. Oh no, Festival Crasher is the. Okay, yeah, that's the 1/3. Yeah, no, of course I put that one. So cheap creatures just to make you sort of survive and maybe put early pressure to force them into like maybe some kind of trade. A lot of removal. And that's it, basically, because if you don't have your spells as removal, then you're just going to be overrun because your creatures are not that impressive. And that's the problem I see with this deck, that if you don't draw Seize the Storm, you might have trouble in getting something to properly kill them. So I think that this deck will depend very much on getting early Seize the Storms and then getting some spells to back them up.
I think it's about staying alive until you find your first Seize the Storm, right? And then you go off from there.
Yeah, that's the plan I see. It's just basically fight for your life. Unless you get some kind of a very slow start from the opponent, you put Festival Crasher and you just play removal, attack for 3, removal, attack for 3, draw a card from something, attack for 5, and then you put them so low in life that they will have to basically be on the back foot. But if you start losing, I think that this deck is not good in coming back from behind unless you get some kind of a rare sweeper or something.
Yeah, so one interesting thing to mention at common is Elementalist with Geist Wave, where you can like basically pay 6 mana to draw a card and blank an attacker, right? Because you can play it, return it, play Elementalist, get back Geist Wave, play Geist Wave, return Elementalist. But I think my problem with that combo is that like I remember that being maybe decent in Dominaria, where you had like the kicker red thing and blink of an eye. But my problem with it in this format is that it doesn't look like the aggressive decks, or like it doesn't look like you're often facing down like a big thing that you can chump so much as like the aggressive decks are going wide or like using flyers, and like even the werewolves like don't really get that big and will often go.
Yeah, no, the big things have menace in 7/6, and you can't just block with one creature something that has menace. No, but I agree. I mean, like biggest threats will have trample or menace or something, so you can't just like rely on that. And I think that the problem that this format might have, that there is no like good mana war creature that would put something on the board and at the same time shift the tempo swing that you could come back from, and it doesn't have that. So I'm really worried about whether this is a viable deck at all.
Yeah, there's not even a Frostlinks.
Yeah.
Let alone Mana War.
Yeah, I think.
However, I do think that maybe some elements of this deck might be incorporated into blue-green, which I think blue-green is more viable, and it can easily splash red for some like good removal, for example.
Yeah, I can definitely see Burn the Accursed being splashed.
Oh, and yeah, I would like to maybe do my soapbox, and I think that Jason does agree with me because we compared the notes on that. The Signpost uncommon flashback spell is awful. I mean, it might be okay-ish in some kind of extreme deck that has like 6 creatures and 17 spells. But I did some numbers, and I think that on 11 spells, which is not little, having 11 instants and sorcery in your deck, I think on 11 instant and sorceries, it can miss both times. So basically, this one is blue-red, look at top 4 cards of your library, pick an instant or sorcery from it, and put the rest at the bottom. And then it has flashback for 5 mana doing the same. And I think that at 11, that's the one, Arcane Infusion. Oh, that's not big. Yeah.
It's bigger, right?
So look at top 4 cards of a library and reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them and put it in your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in random order. With 11 instant sorceries in your deck, you have around 10% chance of missing both times, which means you just spend 7 mana to see the bottom 8 cards of your library, which is not a great skill. And 40% of the time you will hit once, and 50% of the time you will hit twice. I think that if you calculate it roughly, it might be off by fractions of percentage. Now, this card at this rate, this card should not even be considered to be put in a deck. So I think that you have to be really careful about when you put it in your deck and when not. And most of the time, the answer is not. I think that. Don't have the numbers on me, but probably something like 15 instant sorceries or 16 instant sorceries is the place where you might start consider playing it. And it's still not going to be great. So I think that this one misses a lot, and I think that, like with Augur of Bolas, that very often people played it and missed routinely on it. This is a slightly better version of it, but doesn't leave a body behind. So, yeah.
Yeah, like almost all of the Signpost uncommons are good, but the exceptions, I think, are this one and Faithful Mending.
Yeah, that's rough for blue, for Jeskai. Okay, anything else you guys wanted to add on the skeleton for this? If not,
good cards.
Okay. Next up, Boros. So again, I think the white set of creatures that we talked earlier about is very relevant here again. Red-white feels like a bit of a low curve 16 land aggro deck, as it was in Strixhaven, for example. Several cards care about low CMC creatures, so there are some that care about less than 3 mana values, such as the Gavany Dawnguard. Dauntless Avenger cares about less than 2 mana value. So that also leads you towards a low curve, basically, playing a lot of creatures in those mana values. Disturb cards also help with this, because the front side is mostly a cheap mana value creature. And they give you late game spells to cast as well. So that's convenient. I think card advantage and draw mostly comes from those Disturb cards. And of course, again, there's Search Party Captain. And I think Ardent Elementus is also playable in this deck, because I think you'll be playing quite some either removal spells in red or some combat tricks in red or white. So the Elementalist might be a form of card advantage in that sense. Night and Day Matters looks to be a sub-team, so there are a couple of cards that care about that. Sunrise Cavalier, which is the Signpost uncommon, among others, does care about that. Gavany Dawnguard also cares about that. So it seems that instant speed and double spelling might matter. Instant speed for being able to pass the turn and still use your mana, and double spelling for bringing it back to day when it's night. There are not a lot of payoffs here for it being night. The payoffs are just for it changing from one to the other. So I think most of the time you'll be trying to change it back to day, since your opponent is most likely having more advantages from the fact that it's night than you as a Boros player will have.
I think that the biggest advantage would be from them trying to put it to night, because that's what you want them to do, really.
Yeah, basically. You want to, constantly let them get it back to night, so you can quickly double spell, turn it back to day again. Yeah, that seems ideal.
And accrue value while they're still screwed with nothing.
yeah, indeed. Yeah, most creatures are humans, so also here, Flare of the Fate basically reads +3/+3 and indestructible for 1 white, which is a great combat trick again. Yeah, going into the archetype. Thanks for all the follows, by the way. We see you. We just can't shout you out if we're in the middle of a sentence, but yeah, definitely appreciate it, and make sure to check out Pawel's stream as well, and also Jason's stream. We all three stream, and it's just for convenience that we're now here, but Pawel and Jason are also providing great content on their streams, so make sure to give them a follow as well. So yeah, this is the skeleton that I put together. A lot of the cards that I just mentioned are here. Of course, I put the Broken Rare Angel Fire Ignition in here, which is basically straight up insane. I like it a lot. Moonrager Slash. I was how do you say that?
Nightling Bolt.
Yeah, Nightling Bolt, but I only put in 1 here, so I was reserved. Is that the right word? I didn't put in the full allowed to.
We're conservative with putting it.
Conservative, yes.
But you went to town with the Angel Fire Ignition. Fine.
Yes, indeed. There's a Flare of Fate. There's a Play with Fire. I think all of them are good. I think this deck also likes the Witch, likes the Commando. Yeah. Anything else I want to highlight? I really like the Purifying Dragon. Maybe that's a cool card to look at for a sec. I can imagine this being pretty sick. It mows down the 2/2 Decade zombies. What do you think about this card?
I think I don't love it. I think 5 mana for your 4/3 flyer isn't like that good rate. I mean, I think it will be fine. But like, I also don't expect like killing a Decayed zombie to be that relevant. I think
semi-true, yeah.
I think also the play patterns with Decayed zombies will be more that like your opponent like sacrifices them as.
But Jason, it kills the best black common.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the zombie doesn't need to have Decayed. It kills the 2/2 that you like so much, the one that taps 3 creatures and pings for 1.
But that is like that. I think it's not that much upside. It's fine.
Interesting.
But I think it's like I think it's fine to have it as top end here. But like I wouldn't just. I don't think it's like busted or.
Oh, no,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't pick this over Candle Grove, which I don't think.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I guess in general you wouldn't pick a top end in this deck over
any of the important 2-drops. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that the card is like it has really good stats. I mean, it can do stuff, and I mean, of course, it's not on the rate for your Air Elemental right now, but red flyers are usually a bit overpriced compared to the blue ones.
And it also gives the Boros deck another angle to attack via, basically, because outside of the spirits in white, you're not expecting to have a lot of flyers. So, that I like. Okay. Anything else you wanted to add on Boros? No?
I think that Boros is the sort of evil twin of Golgari here. It's like this low synergy deck that will depend on really good on-rate cards, where probably white is going to be the main color and red is going to support it. That's and it's very much the same with the black-green, where black is the engine and green is the support.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm curious to see how this will play out. Well, which white aggro variant do you guys like best? So we've seen Azorius, we've seen Selesnya, we've seen this.
I think I like Orzhov the best.
Oh, we've seen Orzhov as well. Yes.
Because I think white and black are just the deepest colors. And like, you know, it has my two favorite cards, Homestead Courage and Siege Zone.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm also on Orzhov.
Okay.
I also like Azorius much more than I was expecting. I thought that it was going to be not great and that like Disturb was going to be too slow, but I think that it has legs with like cheap Disturb creatures.
Yeah, I was afraid it was forcing us to durdle with like discarding cards and trying to get value from Disturb, but actually it's just a blue-white Flyers deck, which, I like better.
I still live the dream of making the whatever. What is the 1 mana Candle Trap?
Yeah, the trap.
Yeah, I think Azorius Candle Trap Skies is I think. I'm still hopeful it exists. Basically.
I think Metal Mario mentioned something similar in the chat earlier. That's probably the home for it. So yeah, he was on board. Let's say. But
there you go. Me and Metal Mario agree. I can go to sleep a happy man.
Homies for life. Okay. Last one up. Let's go into some spice with 5-color self-mill control. You named it, Jason. What are we looking at here? Specifically.
Yeah. Basically, I just like wanted to like try to build some multicolor deck. Because I do think there's like a decent amount of fixing, especially with Jack-o'-lantern. So the idea here is basically, if you've ever played like Clear the Mind control in Ravnica Allegiance or Devious Cover-Up control in Guilds of Ravnica, or like the Stream of Thought control deck in Modern Horizons 1, then like the idea is that you gradually improve your deck by just like shuffling in good cards and like leaving not good cards in your graveyard, right? And here you have enablers with like eccentric farmer is a very important one, because like with like normal blue-green, you want to like always be hitting your land drops, and it also mills you. And enables things, other things I'll get to. Then there's also Organ Hoarder, which just replaces itself and also dumps cards into your graveyard. Basically, you want to be playing like a value-y plan that like just gets infinite value with like all your cards kind of are 2-for-1s and a bunch of them mill yourself, and then you play cards like maybe you play Devious Cover-Up, maybe not though. Like I don't know how, like this deck doesn't work at instant speed too much, but like things like Devious Cover-Up, and I think a key uncommon will be Covetous. What's it called? Covetous something, the blue one.
Covetous Castaway.
It's 1 in the blue for a 1/3 that when it dies you mill 3, and it disturbs for 3 blue to make a 3/4, which is pretty on rate. That ETB shuffles 3 things in. So like you have all this self mill, you mill these over. Now you have like a pretty on rate flyer that also like improves your deck quality, and you basically like mill through your deck. Like you want to like actively mill all of your deck, and then like then shuffle cards back in and like recur things and get infinite value, roughly is the plan. And because you're milling a lot, you can also get some free, in quotes, fixing from Jack-o'-lanterns. They're also just, I think, pretty good cards just generically.
Yeah, I like those too.
And sometimes nabs a card from your opponent's graveyard to like kind of 2-for-1. You can like splash into like blue-green doesn't really have great removal, but you can easily splash into other colors for that. Like I just put in like Defenestrate Nightling Bolt here. Also, Seize the Storm will be a very good finisher in these decks, which is kind of unfortunate for blue-red decks, but whatever.
I think that they have a bigger problem than that.
Obviously, Consider is good. Oh, another card that I think will be very good in this kind of deck is Geistwave. both because it's like cheap interaction to like stay alive, and also like if you look at the creatures that I've included, most of them have like an ETB effects, right? Like your eccentric farmers, your organ hoarders, and like it also does a cute thing with Castaway, Covetous Castaway, where like it lets you rebuy the shuffle 3 things back in, and basically that's another way outside of Devious Cover Up to infinitely loop your deck. And finally, I have here the 2/1 that like taps for mana for like instant sorceries and disturb cards, because I think that'll be important here for like just ramping up to your engine. Like I don't know how feasible this deck will be, but if it is feasible, it'll certainly be sweet, and I'm certainly gonna try.
I'm going to try very soon, and I don't know if this is the final version that will be, you know, like how you play it, but I think that it might even go with way more splashing than your version is slightly more conservative.
Oh yeah, I think the reason why my version is more conservative is because I don't think there's that much splashing outside rare, and I don't tend to include rares in my...
No, exactly. I mean, the conservative part is that you will get those Puck 3 weird rares that will fit into the picture, and I think that this is going to be, you know, Terrace style kind of pick good rares and splash them.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think that this will most likely be blue-green based, because like you have the uncommon 2-drop that like taps for any mana and like taps for extra mana for flashback, and you have the important common glue cards of like Organ Hoarder and Eccentric Farmer to make your deck work. So
and like, cover-ups are important, it seems, as well. I mean,
I think that if you get either cover-up or Castaway is important. Like you need two copies among those, but like I think that the deck can work without the cover-ups if you have 2 Castaway, or like even 1 Castaway actually works. But
there's something else that shuffles back, no?
You can maybe play Turn the Earth, which is like 1 in a green, shuffle 3 cards in, gain 2 with flashback for green, but like you know that card is inherent card disadvantage, so unsure. Yeah,
okay, Turn to Earth. But you know, if you mill, it might be not disadvantage because you hopefully will mill it. But
yeah,
that is in fact what you're hoping, and maybe you in fact do that. Like, so you know, in Modern Horizons 2, right? You did play Stream of Thought control, where like your Stream of Thoughts were not inherent card advantage, but that was different because you could splice onto that to make it card advantage. Plus, also it was like a win condition. So I'm not as convinced about Turn the Earth.
Metal Mario in chat mentions that Dawnheart Rejuvenator is also a nice include here, because it's a defensive body, gains life, and it also helps you splash all sorts of fancy things. That's a good point, I think.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, I also don't think Turn the Earth would be more than a 1-off.
Yeah, exactly.
I think generally you don't need to fully loop your deck. In this kind of deck, you might play a Turn the Earth just to like, you know, make sure you don't mill out and can have enough value. But I don't.
If you have a Fireball, I would be happy to, you know, strip my library from everything and just have Fireball left.
Well, but yeah, I think if I do play Turn the Earth, I would probably still only want 1 copy, because like shuffling 6 things back in seems like plenty to me. And also, you know, you have the blue-green uncommon to get it back.
Would you play the Regrowth with flashback?
I would play the Regrowth with flashback, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, seems good.
Seems good. Okay. As always, we've been collecting some links to other limited preparation material that you can use. So the set is up on Draft Sim, so go ahead and test out some seals and drafts.
It's also up in 17 lands. I would like.
We should also mention that it's up on 17 lands. Go install 17 lands if you haven't yet.
Oh no, you don't have to, I think, install. You can just play it on the draft simulator.
Ah, but you oh, yes, you're of course competing there with Draft Sim now. I forgot. Oh,
I mean, is it a competition?
no, it's just a service you both provide. A new episode of...
Oh no, I meant it in a different way, Sander. I meant it in a different way.
Oh, you meant it in the way like, is there any real competition? Okay. The new episode of Limited Level Ups is up. Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Finish the joke. What was there?
I'm a believer in 17 lands over other draft helper things.
True, but I've been doing... let's say that I've jammed a lot of Draft Sim drafts in my day.
Oh, that's true. Me too. But now I have to represent the business.
That's fair.
That I have no interest in.
No stake.
But no, I have stakes. I get the data. The data is the part of what makes my content, contenty. Otherwise, I don't have anything interesting to say if I don't have numbers to back it up. So yeah, I have an interest there, but just out of sympathy to the people that run 17 lands and provide us with this great service, you can use the draft simulator. You can use both, compare them, and see which one you prefer. I think that, especially in the early day, and it's going to happen in both Draft Sim and 17 lands bot draft. The good part of it is you can basically first pick something and then force it and try to see how you can build the deck around it, because the bots are still stupid. They didn't learn that much yet. So
where is it, Sierkovitz?
Just the first square, mock draft. There you go.
Wait, what? What?
Mock draft.
Oh, mock draft. Other account.
There.
Boom! It is here, people. We opened an insane bomb rare in overgrown farmland. Okay, so yeah, go check that out as well. Good of you to mention that, Sierkovitz, that there's an alternative to the Draft Sim now. There's also a new episode of Limited Level Ups. It's basically the set review that Ethan and Alex did. I know there's also a visual version of that up on YouTube, probably soon. Ethan is mostly uploading that to the Lords of Limited YouTube, so check that out. Nikolai Bolas has a limited set review each and every set. At least
does he?
Yeah, he does, and it's actually it's very short.
No, I know that he normally does, but I didn't know it was out already.
Yeah, it's up on his YouTube, so the link is in the slide deck as well. There's a Draft Lab podcast that reviews all the rares and the mythics, and I can imagine that they go over the comments and uncommons in in the future episodes. Several limited grades are sharing their 17 lands tier lists. So far, I've managed to get Metal Mario's. But I most likely I'll add some more if I come across that. I also know that Metal Mario, you're doing a podcast, right? A limited episode. What's it called?
Limited edition.
Limited edition. They also did a review, right? New episode tomorrow. Okay, so go check that out, people. Feel free to share a link in chat, Metal Mario, if you like to, for people to check that out. So yeah, just a lot of stuff coming out, and I'll try to update this slide a bit if I see stuff on Twitter that sounds interesting. So feel free to get back to this slide for any more directions there. And then last but not least, we have a slide that we've shown every draft archetype breakdown so far, which is a credit where credit's due. I think Sierkovitz, Jason, and I talk for all three of us if I say we are very non-professional content creators. Most of our inspiration comes from others. So yeah, we've just listed a couple of names, and there are many more, and we'll happily add you if you. I see we need to add a limited app. What was it called? Limited
edition.
Edition. Wow, that name's not catchy to me, at least. Nothing bad about the name. It needs to catch on. Yeah, so we'll make sure to add that, and yeah, just overall a lot of great streamers, content creators out there. I think a limited community is great, right? And I'm happy to be a small...
And it's growing. I mean,
it's growing.
Remember when we first did it, we had 3 podcasts basically.
Yeah, correct.
And then we have added 2. Now you're missing already. You're also missing the Draft Lab from the lists as well. So now we have 7 basically next time.
yeah, certainly there has been quite some growth. It's great.
Limited edition, yes, I got this one myself. I almost typed episode and then I thought, no, that's not how it's called. It's limited edition. Yeah, so I'll make sure to add those, and yeah, limited is great. Yeah, can't say much more about it. Pawel, Jason, any last things you wanted to share? Maybe Pawel, you go first. Maybe you want to shout out your Twitch.
Yeah, I don't do podcasts, but I do my weekly data stream on Thursdays about magic numbers. So yeah, give me a follow if you are interested in that, or check the VODs of what is available. I had like a couple of I think interesting episodes on resource use and maths behind it, and how can you abuse it in deck construction. And yeah, be good to yourself, and then enjoy magic, but responsibly, and think about your well-being before you're grinding. That's it.
Those are the last words from Pawel. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, well, echo everything Pawel just said. And yeah, I will probably not be streaming very much. I'll probably try to stream on Thursday when the set releases on Arena, but very excited to have a set that is not AFR.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, should be fun diving in. Hopefully, making some loop decks work, but we'll see about that.
Oh yeah. Having said that, yeah, I'm definitely not going to do magic numbers this Thursday because I'm going to be playing. But I might do an earlier episode on Wednesday to talk about the numbers in the set, and a bit of a repeat of this particular stream, but also add some stuff about Coven probabilities and single card and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool. Okay, let's end it here. Thanks everyone who joined us in the chat, who was active during chat. A lot of familiar names. Great to have you all with us today. And yeah, awesome.
Avi knows you.
Yeah, awesome to do this again.